All right, welcome to the February 2nd, 2022 City Council meeting. Commissioner Smith, would you give us the pledge, prayer, and the fact of the day, please?
Let us assume the attitude of prayer. Most gracious and almighty God, our Father, we come once again grateful for all the blessings that thou bestowed upon us. Grateful for this opportunity for us to serve as servants to the citizens of this community. We ask them, Father, that your presence be with us today, that you will lead and guide every decision that we should make, that will be in the best interest of those in which we serve. This we pray in thy Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our fact of the day. On February 1st, 1978, Harriet Tubman became the first African-American woman to appear on the U.S. postage stamp. Harriet Tubman was an anti-slavery crusader and Civil War veteran. She was an instrumental figure in the abolition movement and an enslaved woman who escaped captivity in Maryland and made it at least 19 trips back to free more enslaved people. Tubman is estimated to have helped several hundred enslaved people find freedom in Canada via the Underground Railroad, and is said to have never lost a passenger. During the Civil War, she freed several hundred more people when she led Union forces on a raid on Combahee Fury in South Carolina. Later in life, though she had little money of her own, Tubman worked to house and feed the poor and became an important figure in the fight for women's suffrage. Fact of the day.
Okay. Has everybody had a chance to look? We got two sets of minutes.
Yes.
Everybody had a chance to look those? If so, look for a motion to approve the January 5th and the January 19th minutes.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Bankson.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, I'd like to bring up is, it's not on the schedule, but I wanted to honor somebody that served our city well. Chief Joe Brown, who passed away last week, his service will be this weekend. So I do want to read a proclamation. I know his daughter is here. Yes, ma'am. Okay, thank you. So if I can, I'd like to read the proclamation. Whereas Joseph Clinton Brown, Jr., the third was born on June 9th, 1956, to Joseph Clinton Brown, Jr., the second, and Evelyn Wilma Johnson in Manhattan, New York, and raised in the Bronx, New York. And whereas after graduating high school in 1974, Joe enlisted in the United States military. He served in the United States Army for 6 years, stationed at both Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and Izmir, Turkey. Whereas after leaving the military in January of 1981, Joe enrolled at Seminole Community College in Sanford, Florida, and would later enroll in the Police Academy at Seminole Community College. And whereas in February of 1982, upon completion, Officer Brown started working for the city of Apopka. On June 8, 1995, after working his way up through the ranks, Officer Brown became the police chief of Apopka. He served as the Apopka police chief until March 16, 2004. Whereas during his time in Apopka, Chief Brown started the Apopka Police Department's first tactical team and its first full-time narcotics division. He was also instrumental in outfitting police cars with computers with many other departments in the 1990s. Chief Brown helped establish the police gun range and other tactical units within the department. In addition, Chief Brown received numerous awards and certificates of appreciation from many community leaders throughout his years of community service. He was known to be firm, yet a fair leader of policemen and women. And whereas after retiring from the Apopka Police Department in 2004, Chief Brown joined the Orange County Sheriff's Department and would later become the police chief of Eatonville, which is one of the first self-governing all-black municipalities in the United States. And whereas he was preceded in death by his mother, Evelyn Wilma Johnson Christian, Joe leaves to cherish his memories, 4 children, Damian Brown, Edward Brown, Jasmine Stringer Bratton, Joseph Brown, Jr. the 4th, 3 grandchildren, his aunt, Leota Durant, his sister, Lisa Johnson, as well as many cousins, relatives, and friends. And whereas Chief Brown had many interests and was very knowledgeable in many subjects, he was a man who was dedicated to policing and serving his community. What you may not know is that Joe was a business owner. He loved to sail and fish. He was a firearm instructor for the NRA, as well as a kayak instructor at Lake Brantley. He loved to play bass guitar and was an aficionado of the ham radio. Joe was a member of the Central Florida Astronomers Association, the Masonic Lodge, the NAACP, and the Urban League. But above all, he was a loving father who will be missed by so many people. Now, therefore, I, Brian Nelson, Mayor of the City of Apopka, Florida, do hereby recognize and honor our Chief, Chief Joseph Brown, and ask all citizens to join me in honoring his memory. Thank you. Come on down, we'll get a picture real quick. I do want to say to everybody that Chief Manley was going to try to get here, but he's got some family issues as well and couldn't make it, but he sends his regards to the family. So thank you. Okay, next up, we have a presentation on the Apopka Emergency Service Facility. Chief Wylam and Allison.
Good afternoon. Allison Williams, Planner 1 with the City's Planning Division. On January 19th, 2022, the DRC approved the construction site plan for the Apopka Emergency Services Facility structure. The subject property is located at 2750 West Orange Avenue, just east of Fire Station Number 4. The site contains one vehicular access point off of Orange Avenue. A total of 7 parking spaces are provided, of which 1 is an accessible space. The applicant proposes southern live oaks and fire bushes. These are the architectural elevations of the crew quarters and storage unit. DRC recommends approval, and now I'm going to turn it over to Chief Wylam and the representative from Air Methods.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Basically, just want to review. We're very excited about this. Obviously, moving forward, we're going to be able to get air care facility up and running. We do have a representative from Air Methods and also the engineering group here. If you have any questions, and if you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer at this time.
Any questions? Commissioner Banks?
I just want to make sure that the oaks are, knowing how large they grow, that they're not in the prop wash or the chop zone for the approaching of the helicopter. I'm sure they're not, but obviously, those are pretty big trees. So.
Yes, sir. Yep, that's all.
Any other questions?
No.
Good. All right.
All right, yep.
Thank you, Chief. That was
Yes, sir.
easy.
Yeah, we're excited.
Yes. All right, next up, Josh Robinson. Tell us about yard waste and bulky waste route changes.
Okay, Mayor, Commissioners, good afternoon. Just wanted, with the growth in the city, it's time to do some tweaking and balancing of our yard waste routes like we did. I think a couple of years back, we did the same thing, moved some homes onto the Wednesday route, which for the longest, we've had yard waste on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, with the truck sitting on Wednesday. So as the city grows, rather than buy additional equipment and labor to increase those days. We were shifting some on Wednesday. And so the same thing here, we're planning to move Arbor Ridge from Monday to Wednesday, Rock Springs Ridge, San Sebastian, and Bridlewood from Tuesday to Wednesday, basically because they're just there, even though we don't really need to move those. And then from Thursday to Wednesday, Spring Harbor, Pines of Wekiva, Wingfoot, and Wekiva Crest. And then, of course, any homes, there's a few scattered homes on Lester that would go along with that. We plan to run ads in the Apopka Chief and the Sentinel on the 13th. I think the Chief maybe this week, or by the 11th anyway. That's per code. And then we'll distribute door tags the week ending the 18th. And then the following week, the week ending the 4th of March, we'll start with the new pickup day. And yeah, we did this, the last time we did it, it went off pretty smooth, not a lot of questions or concerns, so.
So any questions for Josh?
No, just a verbal correction, because I think you said Rock Springs Ridge. It's Rock Springs Estates,
Rock
right?
Springs Estate,
Right.
correct, not Rock Springs.
Just, I know that there's some Rock Springs Ridge residents in here, so I just want to make sure.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Josh, and we'll also get it in the weekly newsletter. It's too late for the. Yes. Awesome. Okay. Edward, any adjustments to the agenda?
No changes to the agenda, Mayor.
Okay. Well, I feel a little neglected, or I feel like I'm sure a lot of employees feel neglected. We have not done service awards for a long time. One of the things I came in and we started doing, obviously COVID had a big impact on bringing, our employees together. But it's been too long not to at least recognize the employees as they meet those milestones. So I wanted to go ahead and go through our list of employees. And what we're going to do this commission meeting, we're going to do the 10, 15, 20, and 25-year employees. And then the next commission meeting, we'll do all the five-year employees. So I at least want to recognize their contribution to our city. Without great employees that hang around here for a long time, we couldn't get the work done that we get done. So thank you in advance for all that you've done and will continue to do to make our city the best it can be. So under 10 years of service, Christopher Linehan started in 2011, firefighter first class, and was promoted to fire engineer. Next up, we have Elmer Baker III, police officer. We have Angela Ballas, communication technician. Samari Collar, communication technician. Mark Creaser, police officer. Juan Monteguera, he's our traffic operations technician and streets foreman. Robert Walsh, a police officer. Those are all of our 10-year service members. Next up, for 15 years of service, we have Daniel Garcia, police officer, was then promoted to police sergeant. We have Tammy Hobbick, receptionist, HR specialist, secretary to the city administrator. We have Philip Rapon, recreational leader 1, recreational leader 2. We have Dina Cedillo, records clerk and records supervisor. We have Daniel Criswell, firefighter first class, fire engineer, fire lieutenant. We have Robert Mark, police officer, then police sergeant. We have Juan Marino, maintenance worker 1. We have Billy Preston, solid waste worker 2, sanitation equipment operator. We have William Backel, plant mechanic, environmental specialist 1, plant mechanic. We have Thomas Mukaw, instrumentation technician. We have Stephen Williams, utilities electrician, multiple code inspector. We have William St. Perez, maintenance worker 1, maintenance worker 2, maintenance worker 3, facility maintenance coordinator. We have Vicky Carnacelli, administrative assistant. We have John Hanson, multiple code inspector, deputy building official. We have Amanda Merrill, police officer, crime analyst, assistant to the police chief. Now, under the 20 years of service, we have Terrence Hicks, Utility Service Worker 1, Utility Service Worker 2, a firefighter first class. We have Reagan Rizzo, police officer, lead police officer. We have Rhonda Klein, records specialist, athletic programs manager, recreational specialist, lead recreational specialist, and athletic programs manager. We have Stephen Page, firefighter first class, fire engineer, fire lieutenant, fire district chief. We have Carolyn Rogers, secretary 1, permits clerk. We have Charles Whitehead, water plant operator trainee, water plant operator C, water plant operator B, water plant operator A. We have Christopher Hanstein, police officer, police sergeant, police lieutenant. We have Rogelio Vasquez, utility service worker 1, utility service worker 2. We have Marciana Williams, parts specialist and purchasing and supply specialist. We have Andrew King, police officer, police sergeant, police lieutenant. We have Victor Barger, police officer. We have Aubrey Stevens, utility service worker 1, utility service worker 2. We have Nathan Strum, firefighter first class, fire engineer. We have Carrie Von Bargen, fire lieutenant, firefighter first class, fire engineer, fire lieutenant. And now for the 25-year service members. We have Jerome Miller, police officer, police sergeant, police lieutenant, police captain, deputy police chief. We have Gregory Conant, meter reader, maintenance worker 2, and we have William Alvarad, equipment mechanic and fleet foreman. So give them all a big round of applause for all they do for the city. We have a wonderful staff and couldn't be more proud of what they do for us here in the city of Apopka. Okay, Susan, public comment.
We have Randy Dutton.
Thank you very much. Humbled to be able to present to you today, Mayor and the Commissioners. Appreciate all you're doing. And want to take a few minutes here to share with you an education initiative workforce play that we're bringing to Apopka. And you have a handout in front of you of the Legacy Education Center. Commissioner Smith is involved with me, and how I'm standing here is basically because of James McKnight, who was an Apopka resident, played in the NFL, played at Liberty University. I was the men's basketball coach at Liberty from '89 to 2008. Became very concerned about individuals being trapped in hurdles and barriers that are not getting to the workplace. And Lynchburg at the time had the highest poverty rate in the state of Virginia. Made no sense to me. So I started to invest myself into trying to figure out, how we solve that problem, how do we improve the problem. We know in our lifetime, $25 trillion has been spent on poverty, but 80% of it goes to those serving poverty and not those in poverty. So how do we change the game? And so I started going to some of the meetings. I'm sure you guys have them here too. And I was like, well, that's not really solutional. Let's get to the solution. So it came to, the lights came on that the way you're going to change poverty is you're going to change income levels. And so we just start right there. We don't get distracted outside of it, so then we said, let's build a program, because we all know in our lifetime, I was really enhanced through my involvement in programs. So this takes a programmatic approach. So then we developed Legacy under 3 prongs. We were going to deliver accredited education, and we're a post-secondary play. So for everybody that's out of high school, we're a post-secondary play, and there's no age limit. If the student's aspirational, we're in. Okay, we're in with them. And we've got some secrets to this. So we deliver the AA degree. And so you're coming to Legacy from 8:30 to noon, Monday through Thursday, to attain your AA degree. Now, we make a serious play on life skills education. So from 8:30 to 9, we're not just checking the box so somebody funds us, hey, we're doing life skills. No, we're really doing life skills. And so we teach core values, we teach Jim Rohn, and we start out by, and this is one of the problems with underserved individuals, they don't even understand they have value. So you start out, how can they add value in the workplace if they don't understand they have value? So we really promote the whole idea of, hey, you are a creation, you're not a commodity. Education has become too much about a commodity-based center instead of a development center of discipline. And it can be nurturing. I mean, we're very nurturing, we're very empowering. So our goal, if you were to come to Legacy, our relationship would start with, hey, I'm all about your economic empowerment. That's the only thing that we care about. We want to see you get economically empowered, and here's the steps that it's going to take to do it. And it takes accredited academics, takes life skills education, and a career plan. The next thing we do, once we tell the students, we say, hey, you're going to get paid for the value add in the marketplace. This is a truth statement. You're paid for the value add, regardless of your skin color, regardless of where you're from, regardless of your background, you're going to get paid for the value add in the marketplace. Huh? So they start looking at you like, okay, they start to connect the dots. And then, again, we asked a very pertinent question that's not getting asked enough in education right now. You know, we're going to say, hey, Commissioner Smith, what are you passionate about? And his passions are going to start coming out. And he starts telling me what he really wants to do with his life. Now, as we connect that to employment, you know, and we start to get him to understand really that, hey, a 25-year career can put you in a really good spot. We have students in Lynchburg right now working on a 2-year degree making $60,000 a year. You know there's jobs out here right now, $15, $18, $20 an hour that a student can do. Now, one of the things that makes Legacy really successful is 8:30 to noon, Monday through Thursday, so they have time to work during the week. Everybody must work. So we learn to put them in a position to work, and there's 4 levels of employment that we have to put them through because, listen, we have citizens in our communities that have no idea how to work. They looked the part. They rode a yellow school bus from the time they were 3 until they were 12 years old. They stayed inside that process. And then when they got to the end, they weren't prepared to go handle a job in the workforce pressures. So again, we're coaching them up to get them through the workforce pressure. We call it employment maturity. So we have a lot of employment immaturity in our communities, okay? So when you become employment mature, then you start to understand how you can then, you know, navigate through life. So I won't bore you with reading this thing to you, but what we just want to do today, and we're really encouraged by Commissioner Smith too, and he's been tremendous. We have a great committee. You have unbelievable people in this community. So why are we here? We're going to build out Florida with these centers, but we started here because of James McKnight. Okay, and he led us to a lot of people that are very outstanding. And he has a heart for the community. And then obviously we tag up with Commissioner Smith, and you got a great heart. So as the plan is to start in June with 100 students. If we get 100 to 200 students through Legacy over the next couple of years, you'll see a transformation in your workforce. And it's happening in Lynchburg right now. And what's happening then is you can connect that with your economic development people to say, hey, we have a real workforce play in place that can work with industries that want to come into Apopka, and you can expand everything. So just a point of introduction today. Proud of what you guys are doing. Glad to be in Florida. It's 80 degrees here and 40 in Virginia. So thank you for the opportunity to get a little sunshine. God bless you all.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, now this is the collegiate level, so you're starting with the college level, or just go?
Well, we're
go down?
post-secondary, okay? So now here's what's happening in Lynchburg is because we do such a great job, and one of the things we do is unbelievable job with the wraparound services. So we remove all the hurdles and barriers. These individuals are talented. They're just like you and I. They were gifted, but they were born into some hurdles and barriers. We remove all the hurdles and barriers. Transportation, we remove it. Childcare, we remove it. Mental health issues, and a lot of times we're throwing mental health around right now in our communities because, hey, if I'm using drugs and I had a child and I lost it to services and I don't have a job right now, I'm going to have some mental health issues. When we get that straight and we get them into the purpose of a job and life, all of a sudden things get a little cleaner for them. They start moving forward. The GED is a big problem right now. Okay, with COVID, they're saying 20% of high school seniors may drop out. Right. I mean, it's alarming, okay? So, and here's the thing for you guys to understand. We're going to ask for some investment down the road once we show you that we're adding value. And by the way, I'm going to bring a third of the budget to Apopka. Okay, I'm not asking you to fund the whole thing. We work with Bluefield University, work with Liberty University, and we work with your community college system to pipe the classes into the building. And so, you know, the GED though, here's a Northeastern study. For every GED that is not attained in Apopka, it costs you $330,000 in services over the lifetime of that individual. So we've got to make a greater stride and make sure that we get the GEDs done, okay? So yeah, it's post-secondary, but if they don't have their GED, then we help them do it, because that's how they can get into the college education classes.
I'm very excited about that. I know we've been working on the high school, junior high school level to try and bring that pipeline. And we've got about 250 students now, 2/3 of which are minority kids. And exactly what you said, that's what changes and breaks the cycle, is we can get them meaningful employment, to give them a career, give them a path, something they're passionate about. So I'm very excited to find out more of what you're doing and hopefully work together.
Well, we're here, we're committed, that's why we're here, so we just look forward to work. And the other thing is, we always work through the authorities that are established. So, I mean, we're gonna get green lights from you guys before we do stuff, but at the same point in time, you know, we're here to make the commitment, because every day we're not doing this, somebody's struggling in poverty or in these hurdles and barriers that we can remove them, all right?
That's exciting.
Yep, blessings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Randy New or Dennis New?
Dennis New, 105 West Magnolia Street, Apopka, Florida. I was here at the last commission meeting, and I'll say it again. I'm here again. I'm going to say some things that I'm sure some vindictive retaliation will come down the pike for. I see some nice red shirts here, say we want Station Street. I want Station Street too. And I think some people misunderstood me last week. I wanted the downtown city project when it started out here, where they built the hotel in that manner. What I'm tired of is the non-transparent method that the city has been using, not just this administration, not just the previous administration, but going back for years. For those of you who don't know me, I'm from Apopka. My dad was from Apopka. My grandparents are from Apopka. We're part of the indoor foliage capital of the world that no longer exists here, okay? I'm tired of, if you don't bank with the right people or grease the right people, you can't get permits to do things. If the right people don't own property, you can't get it sold because the permits get held up or the process gets held up. I'm tired of the non-transparency in, take for instance, the RFP thing that I spoke about last week. If it can't be transparent, absolutely 100% transparent, if it's not open to everybody, minority contractors, all the contractors, if it's not written in such a way that it doesn't specifically rule out or rule in people, so we're catering to a specific bid, okay, then it needs to change. There needs to be transparency in this city. I watched the city waste money on the property out here, what a lot of you don't know is Martin's Pond, and then sell it at a dramatic loss. I've watched the stuff go on with the low-income housing that we supposedly didn't know anything about, but the county did, and now they want to build it, okay? We need low-income housing. Did they pick the right spot? All of these things need to be addressed, and it's not just you commissioners, it's previous commissioners. It's administrators. It's department heads. Somebody's got their fingers in the pot, and people aren't coming to this city, aren't getting a fair shake unless they bank with the right people, or they've paid the commissions to the right real estate agent, or the right people have purchased the land so it can be sold outright. I've watched it go on. I'm 60 years old. Back to elementary school, I've watched it go on. And it needs to stop. People want to bring businesses to this town. They need a fair shake, not a shakedown of their wallet. That's all I got to say.
Rod Olson, 3156 Rolling Hills Lane. Real brief, Mayor, Commissioners, with all the important matters here today, this may be not big, but it does spell the importance of people being able to enjoy themselves, enjoy music at Saturday Night Sounds. I couldn't drag my wife out. Saturday was temperature in the 30s. I went with the intent, got to show support. I'll stick around a little bit and bail, and I didn't. I did pace the last 30 minutes, but Buddy Blues was awesome. It's a shame that, the weather wasn't there. It was a shame that, but I've been to all but a couple of the concerts. They're awesome. They play a variety of music. It's been fun. It's more fun when there's vendors, a lot of people there. But I want to thank you, and please bring Buddy Blues back.
Thank you, Rod.
Good afternoon. My name is David Rucker. I live in Orange County.
Need your address, please, sir.
4557 Frisco Circle, Orlando, Florida. I am part of the AACCC here in the area. And what I like to do, Mayor and Commissioners, I like to commend you on what you did the last meeting about voting. I think that was a noble thing to do. If you're looking for big companies to come to this area, especially restaurants and things, we have to cut out racism. It's blatant sometimes in certain areas of the things that you all are doing, and it looks like it's racist. Maybe you don't think it is, but it is. So I would like for you to look at those things, because when the lady was here talking from the chamber, she was telling about a lot of restaurants want to come to the area. Some companies won't come if we got a big conflict and playing racism, doing one more on one side of town than the other. So some of those things I think you should look at. I was looking at some information the other day too about police training. Some, to me, that I've seen, like keeping people in their places. All right? You get harassed sometimes by officers. Not all of them, and I think all officers are good, but some things they do just to try to make you know this is some things that you can't do. So I want to suggest that you all look at something in the future about police training, especially communications and especially doing culture changing. Everybody has a culture. Everybody can't be on the same page. If we all on the same page, we move nowhere. It would be stagnant. So they need to learn about culture. They need to learn about respect. If you respect me and my community, then I respect you also. But if you come to my community and want to bully me a lot, then I'm going to put up a lot of resistance. So we need to do some type of training where we can learn the culture. We need to do some training where we can have more officers in the neighborhood. All right? I'm not saying walking around. Just be seen in the neighborhood and don't harass a lot of people. That seems to be done a lot in the neighborhood. And my thing is just keeping them in their place. Let them know they can't do this, can't do that. But you don't need to do that. This is a one-shot deal. Everybody live once, but they die forever. So we have to learn to work this out together. I think that's what we should look at doing. And again, I just like to commend you on the voting, for early voting. I think that's one of the noble things you've done in a while that I've seen, and the training. Another thing, look at apprenticeships, because when the fellow got up and talked about training, you can do some apprenticeships. All right. I worked for Orange County for 25 years. I did skills training. All right, but most of my program was out of 33rd Street. Everybody came out of 33rd Street that was in 1 hour training programs. They had to come see Mr. Rucker. All right, I did some things. I broke barriers. I gave little packets away. We paid for housing. We also paid for tickets, transportation, because we had some people at the transfer plant out on the other side of town, and they had to walk a mile from the bus stop. So we made sure they got on the job. If they need any help or anything, we did those things. So I have some experience, and I don't mind sharing some with you. I am retired now, all right? But we can make this thing work in Apopka. The foliage, I know is gone now, but there's still some other things that you can do in the area to train. And then some of the bigger companies will look at coming here. Right now, they're not going to come because of racism, all right? And if you don't think it's racism, that's what's really happening. So some of those things you need to stop. Any
Thank you, Mr. Rucker. Appreciate it.
That's it?
Yes, sir.
Any questions?
I'd like to get your direct contact information. As you know, a long time ago we sat down and I said, I'd like to sit down and talk with you to find out what those are. Because, you know, we hear a lot of attacks and accusations and issues, but I need examples, illustrations, and opportunities to do something about that. So like last week, that was helpful.
Yeah.
We were able to do that. And
I don't have a problem sitting down with you. We can work out a time. I'm retired. I have a lot of time. Okay?
So-
Thank you. Yes.
One of the things I do see, like in Ocoee especially, where they have community advisory boards, and that's a good way for us to start, to really kind of address some of the social issues that we talk about, and then we say, okay, let's try and figure it out. But I would recommend that we would start as a commission, in other words, to really start community advisory boards so that we can at least sit down and talk about some of the social issues that are important to the community, and also a way of sharing, because we don't always know everything that's going on in the community until we become reactive to an incident. So
Well-
absolutely.
Thank you. It's no use to me holding it in my chest. It won't do anybody any good. So I like to share. I have no problem sharing. You just call me, we can set up an appointment, and we can go forward.
Okay.
All right? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rucker.
I'm Shirley Squires. I live at 327 Tanglewild Street in Apopka, and I've been there since 2004. My husband passed away January the 15th of 20. I was very pleased with the help I got from the funeral home, from the cemetery people. Everything worked out great. Of course, it's not a good time for anyone, but you made it much easier for me, and I appreciate that. What I am asking about today is the roads in Greenwood. We chose, maybe wrong, but we chose this, and I like it. It's on the outside perimeter road, which is almost dirt or little potholes or whatever. And when I go in there, I'm concerned about falling into those potholes with my car. And it's a little embarrassing to take people in who are from out of state. And here we've got a nice entrance, but when we get around where we're going to where my husband is, it's sort of bad. And I was told by Keith, back in the summer, I think, that we were going to get the roads repaired. And I asked him then if we could just fill in some of the potholes that are off this asphalt. So, just even with dirt or rocks or whatever, because I don't want to fall in those holes. I don't know how to fix the car, and I don't know what I'd do if I fell in there. And it's deep, some of them are deep. But that's my comment.
Thank you, ma'am. I know that one of the things we're waiting on, we've got money in the budget to do some of those repairs, and we're waiting on a machine. It's been backlogged forever. We've got a new asphalt machine coming that, the problem is we've had to do these small repairs with a cold patch, and cold patches don't last, and we've got a new one that's gonna have a heater so that it kind of melts the asphalt in together, making it a much more, much longer lasting product. So it's supposed to have been in this week. and so we got a backlog of things that we need to fix, and so but we don't want to do it with the cold patch if we've got this new machine coming. So, but we appreciate your comments.
Yes, now
Yeah.
the people in the cemetery can't, reply.
Yeah.
So I'm, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Ed, when we did the streets assessment, did they consider the roads in the cemetery?
No, they were not part of it, Commissioner, but what we have done is, if you recall, we're expanding some of our cemetery and doing some platting to add some additional spaces. That's a project that Susan in her office is working on, and they're trying to wrap that up now. And part of that plan and some of the funding that we put into the budget is to actually fix these roads. So but we want to get this new plat out because we're going to have to put a road in that new section, and at the same time, we want to fix those areas that she was talking about as well. So we're actually looking at, if you know, on the back side of the cemetery, we have some spots that are not even paved. They're dirt roads. We're looking at getting those paved when we do this portion as well. So we have some funding in the budget. We're waiting for them to give us the plat so that we have all the new spaces that'll be available. And then we're going to roll all of the roads in it together.
Okay.
If there's still delay on that machine, we don't want to let it get so bad that, again, it would do damage to a vehicle. And we're sorry for your loss, and thank you for sharing that for us this morning.
I think what we need to do is, we'll have the cemetery staff look at if there's some that are really, really bad. We can at least go ahead and get those filled in the meantime so that we don't have any deep holes.
Yes.
Leroy Bell, 2308 Blue Meadows Court, Apopka, Florida, and I'm the chairman of the AACCC. Commissioner Bankston, you just asked for David Rucker to give you some examples. And we at the AACCC think what Mr. Newton was talking about, transparency. Transparency seems to elude this mayor and his administration. We can start with the chief nephew, where he was beaten and broken his jaw and fractured, where the police department went into Allison Sims' house and beat her, lawsuit filed. Tommy Lee Jackson, they went into his house, beat him, lawsuit filed. Jalen Call, Captain Call's daughter, where Officer Robert Campbell abused her at a football game. A witness sent a letter directly, email to Mayor Nelson, and he hid it. And also, Mr. Jason Friendly, the police whooped him. He is a disabled veteran and also ex-police officer. Now, we all think this is a part of racism, and it all comes down to if you was fortunate enough to attend the mayor's debate the other night, Mayor Nelson sat there, and with a heavy heart, I come on behalf of some of the people on South Apopka side. You trashed those peoples. You talked about them like a dog. They wasn't worth it. But when it came to the annexation, Apopka still function and pay its bills out of some of the tax base that come from over there out of the water. That's right. When they get their bill over there, it don't say Orange County, it said the city of Apopka. When you get you get revenue from the bank, not the bank, but the dump, for monitoring the dump out there. Well, I tell you what, I know you got overwhelmed and you want to cry at the end of the debate. I know for a fact that at your church, my son and I, for the past 2 years, have been there with Kelly, volunteer bringing food. But it seems to be when the election came up, you found a way to give away coats to get you a photo op. What you ought to be crying about It's what you're doing to the people over in South Apopka. Thank you.
And what was the name of the lady you said I didn't contact?
Kelly.
Who?
Kelly, you know Kelly. She is the one that
Oh, yeah, okay, I know, okay. I didn't know who you were talking about, okay.
And let me add to this. The pastor over there at that church at the church that you and Commissioner Becker attend, one of the superest guys that it is in the world. I would give him the shirt off my back. But if you remember when Joe Kisheimer was the mayor here in Apopka, you had your buddy, Rod Love, every council meeting coming in here talking about the police, this, that he was a businessman, that he would pay for diversity training. You got a fire department chief that's sitting back there. This guy, Mr. Jason Friendly, decided to share with the world what Apopka police did to him. He just sent out a directive telling everybody on the fire department to wear a ballistic helmet and vest because it's going to be a riot. You got Orange County Sheriff Department sitting out there. Instead of getting out, talking with the people, when you start policing, when you start protecting and serving, instead of occupying and dominate, when you start interacting with the citizens, instead of berating them, then cost and safety come down for the police officers as well as the residents.
Good afternoon, everybody. Sylvester Hall, 3091 Rolling Hills Lane, Apopka, Florida. I'm just following up with you from my last introduction of what my calling is in life. And one, that's to change business as normal in politics. And two, to bring love and prosperity to every poverty-stricken community in this US of A, starting with South Apopka. I'm sitting back listening, taking everything in, because sometimes you learn more about listening than you do talking. So I'm coming to every meeting, I'm sitting back and I'm listening. But let me break out some simple facts just for y'all to let marinate for a while. Poverty is man-made. Poverty is man-made. So it can be easily changed by man overnight if man had the love for his brother man. When we talk about poverty, we talk about it as it's a charity, it's a handout. Those are people over in South Apopka. Everybody likes to come in and say what needs to be done over there, but nobody want to go over there and spend a little quality time learning and seeing what's going on. If you're trying to counsel me on my marriage, but you never come to my house to see how me and my wife operate, what good advice can you give me? Mayor, we got a long history together. And like Monique said, I love you and ain't nothing you can do about it. I feel the same way, but our content is different. I love you and nothing you can do about it because that's what God commanded me to do. 8+ years ago, I think that's the last Martin Luther King parade I participated in. Because I sit back and I'll watch. While we're all celebrating Martin Luther King, we all forgot the contents of what Martin Luther King stood for. So we're riding through a poverty-stricken community. Everybody's celebrating, everybody throwing candy, the kids are grabbing candies, and we're looking around and we're patting ourselves on the back. That's why I made the comment, because we never brought it down mainstream Apopka. We stayed in the hood. And I went up to you, Mayor. You was the Orange County Commissioner then. And I said, Mayor, if you would want your kids raised in this community, then don't do anything about it. But if you don't, then do everything in your power possible as an elected official. Now here we go back, we're into 2022. And we had another encounter when my kid was in grade school over at Rock Springs Elementary. Ms. Gramondo, we had another crisis like we do now. We had another crisis with the schooling system. Well, Mr. Gramondo invited me, she was the principal at Rock Springs Elementary at that time. She invited me to go to Tallahassee. Who was in Tallahassee, Mayor? It was you. We had an appointment with you. That appointment never materialized. We ended up speaking to Representative Garner. And one of the questions I asked Garner is, Representative Garner, I said, well, we got millions of dollars to build schools, but we have no money in the budget to operate the schools. And I say, that's like me buying a Mercedes, and I can't pull it out of my garage because I don't have the operating funds to pull it out of the garage. And he smiled and he said, yeah, it don't make any sense, do it. And that was his last comment. Yeah, it don't make any sense. So it's time to stop doing things as we always done them. And it's time to, start thinking about the people. And I know my time is almost up. When I challenge you on your moral conscience, I'm doing that today. And when we speak of racism, that's a touchy subject that nobody wants to deal with. But I was born in 1962. At that time, you can hang a black man and get away with it. That was the culture of the country. So what I'm trying to tell you guys that laws do not change moral conscience. What's in your heart has always been your heart. The laws was put into place to keep you from acting on it. But it don't change your moral conscience. So what I'm saying to everybody, it's time for us to come together with love because racism has caused this country a lot of pain. And
Okay,
if we can,
thank you.
and if we can put that note in our hearts and start there when you're talking about poverty and everything else, racism has to stop. It is time to stop patronizing racism and deal with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Robinson, Small Business Advocates of Central Florida, 53 East Main Street, Apopka, Florida, 32703. Good afternoon, Council, Mayor. I'm here today on behalf of the community and business owners in the community on the South Apopka side in regards to the Station Street project. I know that in the previous meeting, it was rejected for whatever reasons in that meeting. The concern from the community is mainly just to ensure that something that's going on for this side of town, a development that can be fruitful for business owners as well as the community is not kind of held up in politics. So to set politics aside, moving forward to the actual project. I know Commissioner Smith mentioned in that meeting that he wanted to see minority participation on that RFP. I know Commissioner Velasquez said that she wanted to see more businesses that could come in and have retail there in that area. Those are the concerns of the community. We don't care about politics. We don't care winning or losing. We care, but at the same time, all we care about is who's representing us, and they're representing us to the best of their ability and have our best interests at heart. I met Mr. Hitt some years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and Station Street was only a vision for him. Moving forward, it's turned into conceptual. They've got the RFP out. They finally are able to put it out for someone to actually bid it so that it can become a reality. That's the concern of the community. We want Station Street to become a reality. We don't want to get caught up in whatever's going on right now and then say, for instance, we want to be able to have it put back out in an ample amount of time, not for it to be 4 or 5 more years before it's put out again, and therefore holding up development on the south side of Apopka. We know the north side and all over the other areas of Apopka, There's developments going on every day. They're breaking ground for the city center soon. So we just want to make sure that we see the same thing on the south side of Apopka. Minority participation is needed. Local, women, Black-owned, veterans, all of those are needed so that we can give back. If the companies come in and they're able to work on something that's in their community, and then they come back and spend their money, and then they have pride on what they see in their community. Don't just give it to the north side. You know, it's gonna be an event center there. Most people on the south side of Apopka will never see the amphitheater. You know, so those are things that the community wants the council to know. Even with this minority participation part of that, we know that you don't have a small business department. Small Business Advocates of Central Florida, we have a program at no cost to the city that can help you do what you need to do in order to bring those minority businesses in. And we're willing to partner with the city to do that. So there's ways, we're just wanting to make sure that Station Street happens. Speaking with Propagate, Josh over at Propagate, speaking with Three Odd Guys, they would get that traction from Station Street. So they're concerned. They want to make sure that it still happens. I know the city staff has worked very hard on this project. So we just want to make sure as a community, as business owners, even with some of the staff, that this happens and it's not caught up in a whirlwind of politics. So what we're asking, if it does go back out, community engagement, you know, getting the community involved, letting them know what's going on in their community. So if they have concerns, they can voice them as well. Even if it does have to go out, ensuring that, okay, if we only get one bidder, let's make sure that all facts are there and we're doing the right thing as far as making sure that that one bidder is truly, and we're making decisions off of the fact that they're not meeting the criteria of the evaluation, not other factors. Let's make sure that we get what we deserve. Because there's nothing, they haven't had any development over here since the dollar store. So this would be something prideful for the community. Community is here. We have business owners that are here. We have different ones that are concerned. So we're here not to point fingers. We're wearing these shirts because we want you to know that we care. We're not wearing these shirts to say, hey, you did this and you did that, and why did you do this and why did you do that? We're here only to let you know we're here. We want Station Street and we want it to move forward. We want a participation goal. We want retail businesses there. So we want it. We don't hold anyone in the blame for other reasons. We want it there. And that's it.
Thank you, Mina. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
No, I was going to save this for our council report, but I think it's fitting right now that I wanted to put on the record, I regret that I didn't vote yes, even though it wouldn't have gone at that point. But just in the climate of everything, it seemed dead in the water and letting it go. Because of this, we had the opportunity after seeing it move forward. I prefer to have multiple people involved in that, but we had someone willing to do that and willing to come in, and some politicization got involved in that, but we lost an opportunity to at least consider that, at least tell them, this is what we'd like to see. We want some involvement because we want to see this area, because it will benefit not only South Apopka, but all of Apopka. It'll heal some wounds and move us forward. And that's been a number of years that I've wanted to see that. So that's on me, but when I had time to reflect on that, I regret that I didn't go ahead and vote for that, at least give us the opportunity to look at it. We could have still said no. And so hopefully in the future, we can, we'll take that time to really consider those things in the whole and not get caught in a momentary situation.
Yeah. I mean, we can say politics. I'll stick with my principal guideline based off the comments that I made in the prior hearing and Monday earlier this week. The fact is, and Ms. Robinson touched on it, lack of retail commercial element of that. And I'll read the determination of the cone of silence real quick, based off the RFP. The cone of silence shall terminate at the beginning of the city council meeting, whether regular, special, or committee of the whole, at which a written recommendation is proposed to the city council, which we did on our prior city council meeting. However, the city council refers the recommendation back for further review. The cone of silence shall be reimposed. But basically, during that hearing, there was no cone of silence. And so when I brought up my issue around the highlight of minor commercial within that submission, there was no rebuttal from either participants in the staff, evaluation committee, applicant, people that submitted that request to address my concerns on that RFP submittal. So, yeah, there was probably 3 reasons why I motioned to reject the bid, and that's one of 3. But I stand by my decision that I made.
And we respect that.
Yeah.
It's just we want to be able to, if it has to go back out, let's not put it on the back burner for the next 4 years.
Oh, absolutely.
Let it go back out.
Absolutely
If
not.
someone's interested, let them come in and engage the community.
Mhm.
So that's all we want to say.
I agree.
Yeah.
And, you know, to be clear, I respect everyone's right for their reasons for what they do. I'm not here other than to take personal responsibility. As I looked at it, I see an opportunity where transparency is there. I know there's a concern that was voiced that these things can be worded in such a way as to exclude, but I had no example to prove that's what happened. And so what I saw was we could have brought those objections. Now we have nothing to even work with. We could have stopped it if those things were brought forward, you know, and so just in my eyes, as I looked at the process, we have a group that, regardless of campaign contributions and things like that, there was nothing that stopped other people from responding, which I brought up in our discussion. And also, this is a process where there was a scoring that, this is the process that we have to try and be as transparent as we can and yet not be a dinosaur in trying to bring development. So my point was, had we moved forward, we would have had every opportunity to stop it if there were things that could have been brought up. And so for me, I just wanted that clear. That's where I'm at, and
Thank you.
that's on
Thank
me.
you for holding
That's
yourselves
on me.
accountable, because,
and
you know, and that's kind of all the community kind of wants. And if it has to move forward, let it move forward. But when it comes back again, if we only have one bidder, we don't want to have to go through the whole process. We want it to be factual and want it to be, reasons pertaining to the RFP.
And my heart in all of these things is to see this area rise and it be a real benefit to those who have struggled the most. So that's my paradigm in looking through these things. And again, to bring up small business, to bring up minority opportunity, that's something that we, as I understand that, would have that opportunity to say, we want these things on the table, or we can say no.
We can say no.
So at that point, I thought we missed an opportunity that we could have shot it down if it didn't check all of our boxes as a community. So I just wanted to be transparent with my heart. That's where I stand.
We still have an opportunity because it can go back out.
And I respect everyone else's
See, I
thoughts.
think when they did the presentation at the last council meeting, there was a lot of information that we did not have. Since then, the link where the one community meeting that was conducted, I did tune into the entire meeting. And I feel that if that information that came out of there, and I think if you remember, I had said, well, I want to understand what the process was, how did they score them, and how did it come before us? I don't know if I would have had access to that before it came, but I think when the presentation was made at the last council meeting, if we had had maybe the representatives from the community and also a representative from the developer here to have reinforced, why they wanted to go forward with it. So there's an opportunity, and I do agree with you. Let's put it back out, and let's see what comes back. And now that, for me anyway, and I'm hoping the other commissioners, because everybody got the link, were to tune in so that they can understand what the process was. And that was information that we did not have when they presented it to us. So
Thank you.
I appreciate that you did come in and you're supporting it, because this shows the community, because that's who we represent. The fact that you're here tells me that this is very important to you, and it's something that we need to prioritize when it goes back out.
Thank you.
Mr. Bass, do we have a date as to when that's going to be put back out?
No, we have not established a date. We'll have to get with procurement and get it on their schedule. I mean, they have a couple projects that they're working on right now, but we will look with them and get a date. So maybe a date probably in the next week or so.
Okay.
Thank you, Mina. No, you've had your 4 minutes.
You can talk with me afterwards.
Next up, Susan.
Hello, I'm Kate Manley, the Apopka Area Chamber of Commerce President and CEO. I was just going to mention, I've gotten a lot of feedback in the last couple of weeks since the last time I was here to present about the economic development package, the website, the press release, and video. I wanted to make sure that there's an understanding of the structure of the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce is an independent organization. We are not city employees. We do not work for the city. However, the city is actually a member of the Chamber of Commerce, as are many other people, several of which are in here. I also would like to mention with that it is a pleasure to be a partner with the city, and most of the commissioners are very, very engaged with what we have going on, and even with regard to bringing developers in. We have collaborative partners on city commission, on city staff who come in, as well as the mayor, to help us to either greet them, give them information when we're bringing in some organizations who want to invest in our community. I'd also like to briefly address the fact that whenever, if you notice, we have any of our members, we have 474 members today that are business members, so that means multiple people in the organizations are members. We always try to be here for our members when they are meeting with council, because we are a liaison between our businesses and the city, either city processing, permitting. We try to be a liaison because a lot of times I'm the only person, or one of my staff are the only people they know that they can come to when they are here to present to commission or council. With that being said, I'm here today representing a couple of my members that will also be coming up to speak in a little bit. So I want to make sure that is understood, that we don't take a position other than to be advocates to our businesses. I would like to address that with regard to those of you who collaborate with the commission or with the chamber, that you are sometimes aware of things through the chamber because we are a business entity structurally bringing in investors and potential businesses such as the Station Street project. While I did not deliberately or specifically have a conversation with anyone here prior to that RFP conversation, I want to remind everybody that that conversation, that vote was not to approve the RFP, but to just get it to that next level where it would have been open to the community to know some of the really exciting projects that were in play for that developer. I spent about 9 months working with a private education institution to bring them here. They spent money to fly here. They brought their leadership here, and I helped them do feasibility studies for employment and training programs that they would offer here, both medical, vocational, IT, and it was very disappointing when that didn't move forward, so that you could have known about those opportunities, especially because they specifically serve underserved communities and minority populations in all of their other schools. So I just wanted to kind of mention that. I have had conversations with many of you after. I appreciate so much, Commissioner Bankson, your comment that you regret that it didn't move forward. I desperately regret that it didn't go forward because I've spent a lot of time and effort and extra hours helping that organization because they really wanted to be the anchor in this community. And unfortunately, I had brought 2 developers to the table. One could not afford to submit an RFP at that level without a signed anchor, and the other could and did. So it's unfortunate, but I wanted to make mention of that and let you know your chamber is working for you. We're working together. We're working for this community. We do have diversity and inclusion committees. You have all the opportunities in the world to be engaged with the chamber, and we try to pick up on anything that isn't already being worked on through the city, like senior services. There's no department, and we've partnered recently to put together a committee for that as well. So that's really all I had to say. Thank you.
Well, yeah, thank you. I know we got the chance to meet with the group that's out of Puerto Rico. We went out to the.
All of their campus, two of their
Yeah,
campuses.
two campuses, one in Osceola County, their kind of flagship one, and then one in DeLand. DeLand. And so, yeah, it's been a pretty exciting opportunity for us to have a technical school here that would, those folks that didn't want to get a four-year degree, a great opportunity, and four-year
They do
degrees
have
as
four-year
well. So
degrees as well.
yeah, it would have been a great opportunity, missed, but maybe we can bring it back. So thank you, Kate.
So this is the question that I have, is that the mayor gets to meet with these different groups, and sometimes by the time something is brought to us at the council, that's all the information that's kind of missing for us. You met with the group from Puerto Rico, and, that would have been a great opportunity. We all have, when we need to support a development, a developer will reach out to each of us, or we reach out to them. What is it you're bringing to this community? What are you building? What's your product? I use Ed Bass when I have a lot of questions. So here you are, you're presenting this. It's a missed opportunity, but guess what? We didn't know that. When the RFP was presented by James Hitt, there was so much information missing.
But Commissioner Velazquez, the problem is the RFP wasn't presented. It was only opportunity for them to go negotiate for it to be presented later.
I know.
And that would have been the opportunity. The unfortunate thing is there was a politicalization of the timing and all of that. And unfortunately, the casualty is development, education, workforce. And this is something that this is what everybody says we don't do, that we do. And so unfortunately, this was dramatically missed.
But there was, how do we, as an individual commissioner, each of us have an idea of what's being brought? Like today, this gentleman came and brought this to me today. He spoke to me before. But when he made his presentation, the only commissioner that's been involved in it is Commissioner Alexander. I had no idea this was even in existence, that he was going to present it. I'm for it, because anything that's going to lift our youth and help people get out and get a job and get a GED, I'm all for it. But why was the only person on this dais aware of this?
So I hear you,
Yeah.
but I
So
think
we
that
have
what's
to
really
figure
important
out
to
a
know
way
is
that our individual commissioners at least get some information, just something that we can support individually and say, okay.
had I known that because it was not an acceptance of an RFP, I left after my presentation. If I thought it was something that would be contentious at all, I would have stayed. And I am not under a cone of silence and could have said something. So that, because I had built a relationship for both of the parties. So I could have if I'd known, but because it was not to accept an RFP, it was only to accept the opportunity to move forward and have a conversation about it and to negotiate it when it becomes then public, then I had no idea that would happen. However, I will just caution and say that for you guys are commissioners. This is your job. This is your part-time job, some of you, but it is your job, and it is your job to understand what is the process that people go through for RFP. That is not my job. You can Google it, you can check, you can do workshops, but you can find out other ways, and then also grants. It's not my position to come in and teach you how to do it. It's your position to learn it.
No.
And it's not the responsibility of the community to teach you how to do it before you vote on it.
No, that's not what I was talking about. Not the RFP, but the information of projects that are interested or entities that are interested in coming into the city. When you said
Come to the
that they
chamber
spoke-
more.
The mayor said just now that he had met with this group.
Absolutely.
Well, none of us even knew that this group was interested in
You and I
coming
have
into the
spoken
city.
about this.
That would be an automatic rejection of the bid. There's the cone of silence is clear. It says definition, cone of silence, as used herein, means a prohibition on any communication regarding a particular request for proposal, request for
qualification, or bid between A, a potential vendor, service provider, proposer, bidder, lobbyist, or consultant, and B, the city council members, all 5 of us, city's professional staff, including but not limited to the city administrator and his or her staff, which is basically everybody, and any member of the city's selection or evaluation committee. So if we're saying that we've had conversation before, it would have been an automatic rejection anyhow. There's no politics involved. It's called what our RFP calls for.
I'm not a city employee or representative or advocate for or
But you just
lobbyist
said
for
one of the
that,
members
but
of this
her and I
council
have
had
talked
negotiation.
her and I have talked about the school coming here before when I first went and visited them, as I have spoken to a couple of other commissioners about the school potentially coming
Coming
here.
to
That was
Apopka.
prior to the RFP. We worked on this for 9 months.
Nothing to do with the
Nothing to do with the
Station Street
RFP.
Center. It's just coming to Apopka to be,
Yes.
we wanted, a Valencia, we want the college to come, whoever, anywhere. It had nothing to do with the Station
It
Street
was
project.
not about the Station Street specifically. It's
So,
just that
it was- we
we're aware that I was working on bringing them here because we've had conversations about it and how, and so have a few of you have had that conversation with me, knowing that what I was working on. So again, it's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate
Any other
with the RFP. I hope that it goes back out and that.
Can I further clarify? I want to clarify and make the statement regarding the cone of silence. While it does prohibit communications between a bidder and the government body, that's the 2 that are prohibited. That cone doesn't start unless the RFP is advertised. Prior to advertisement, if there's no advertisement, there's no cone of silence.
I understand that.
So we want to be straight. We want it to appear that as long as an RFP is not or an RFP or an RFQ or a bid, as long as it's not advertised, there's no cone of silence.
The cone of silence would have been from August 22nd through January, 19th?
Whenever the date, whatever the advertisement dates were in regards to that specific bid. But in generally, it's going to be, it's not an automatic, there's no speaking. We're tied to when it's advertised.
I understand that.
Well, it couldn't have been from August because it said it was only out for 54 days. So August wouldn't have been.
August 22nd was the date that it was posted.
Okay.
I mean, that's on the timeline.
So then it's more than 54 days is what you're saying?
I'm saying the cone of silence, it was August 22nd was when it was posted. October 15th at noon was when it was due. January 19th is when we had our session. January 12th was when the evaluation committee held their proceedings. I mean, I can be corrected on the timeline, but that's my understanding of it.
Well, it's a challenge, obviously, when we deal with the different laws to make sure that things are just, fair, legal, apparent, transparent. I mean, it starts to feel like I hear the theme of get smart behind us, when we talk about doing these things. We just want to get things done, but we have to do them in the right way. And, again, I respect that we all should examine those things and know and, continue to educate ourselves on that. Hopefully, we can move ahead now. And hopefully this can be resubmitted and that we can do this and have the conversations that we need with the time to adjust it to what fits our community and, that we are not viewed on the broader scale as a city that's difficult to work with. So I think we can work together on that.
Next up.
Kind of like Fred Sanford, I have to have multiple glasses so I can see. Anybody that's under 50, they don't know what I'm talking about, I'm afraid. I'm David Rankin. I'm with One Florida Bank at 21 East 3rd Street in Apopka. I come before the Apopka City Council today not to take issue with the city, its employees, or commissioners. Rather, I'm here to set the record straight with regard to the city's banking relationship with my employer, One Florida Bank, where I serve as Executive Vice President. I'm sure that many of you are aware of the seemingly never-ending accusations and innuendo that have been made towards Mayor Nelson, certain city commissioners, employees, private individuals, and businesses by a handful of people that have an axe to grind for one reason or another. Social media, particularly Facebook, seems to be the preferred tool to disseminate all sorts of misinformation, half-truths, and outright lies. I don't think it's by sheer coincidence that these aspersions go into hyperdrive in the days and weeks right before an election in hope that it will affect the outcome. But it's deeper than that, as these individuals seem to have too much time in their hand and some hatred in their heart. The bottom line is they're not interested in good government or public policy. They're only interested in furthering their personal agenda. And if it means that the city of Apopka and its citizens and businesses are caught in the crosshairs, then so be it. Recently, a certain Facebook administrator put up a post that called into question the city's money market account with one Florida bank. Although the city has a deposit relationship with 3 commercial banks, as well as the State Board of Administration, the administrator of this page saw fit to only mention one Florida bank because he has an axe to grind with Mayor Nelson, who's been a friend of mine for over 35 years. He claims that Mayor Nelson is a stockholder in one Florida bank and insinuates that he steered $31 million of city money into one Florida bank, into the one Florida bank money market account. On the surface, the accusation looks ugly and appalling, but the fact of the matter is it's 100% false. Neither Mayor Nelson or any member of his family are or have been stockholders in one Florida bank. Let me repeat that. Neither Mayor Nelson or any member of his family are or have been stockholders of one Florida bank, period. With regard to the $31 million, several months ago, the city reached out to several local banks to see what kind of interest rate they could earn, and all of them were less than what one Florida bank was willing to pay. Granted, the rate has steadily dropped since the account was opened in June of 2019, and it currently earns a rate of 0.25%. However, this is a function of a myriad of economic, market, and social factors, including the effects of COVID-19. If the administrator of this Facebook page were honest, informed, and really cared about disclosing all the pertinent facts, they would know that while a quarter of a point isn't historically an attractive rate, it is what the market and the economy dictate. Another accusation this person makes is that the city is putting all of its eggs into one basket. This is patently false, as the city has approximately $61 million on deposit with 2 other banks, as well as the State Board of Administration. One bank is paying 0.20 on the general investment account that holds over $55 million, while another bank is paying 2.47% on a $5.5 million CD that is scheduled to mature this spring. When the CD matures, I'm confident that rate will be adjusted downward to reflect market rates. With regard to the account with the State Board of Administration, the city only keeps about $24,000 since the rate is only 0.13. So as you can see, comparatively speaking, the city is getting a good deal with one Florida bank. Another example of this person's uninformed accusations is to claim that the city's deposits are not adequately insured with FDIC insurance. Whereas FDIC insurance is capped at $250,000 per account holder, I submit that there aren't enough chartered financial institutions in Central Florida to put all of the city's deposits under the FDIC umbrella. To lessen the risk to Apopka and other municipalities, state statute mandates that those institutions desiring to accept public deposits must be designated as a qualified public depository, or QPD, by the Florida Department of Financial Services. Becoming and maintaining a QPD status requires that financial institutions achieve and maintain a certain level of financial safety and soundness to protect the liquidity of its municipal customers, such as the city. With regard to the city of Apopka, their one Florida bank account is covered by the $250,000 in FDIC insurance and is further collateralized with cash and securities, again, per state statute, Chapter 280. There's nothing wrong with scrutinizing the city's deposit accounts. In fact, it's a responsible thing to do for responsible citizens to do. However, to singularly question a $31 million deposit account at one Florida bank while simultaneously ignoring $61 million in additional city funds on deposit at other financial institutions confirms that ignorance, self-serving politics, and a personal vendetta is the basis for these unfounded accusations. Finally, social media in the hands of the uninformed is tragic. Social media in the hands of the uninformed who are holding an unfounded grudge is dangerous. It casts seeds of suspicion and doubt, makes enemies out of those who were once friends, and tears at the very fabric of that holds a community together. Whether you realize it or not, Apopka is truly a special place to live and work. That's not hyperbole, but fact. But I'm convinced there are outside forces, including this particular Facebook administrator, who are working diligently to tear it apart. Unfortunately, I fear that some in the community allow and even encourage it to happen. Some of those people might be right here in these chambers or watching online. Everyone has their reasons, but the common denominator of those who condone this type of behavior is ignorance and selfishness. I've always been a competitive person, but have never, ever subscribed to the notion of whatever it takes to win. To do whatever it takes to win means you would consider taking shortcuts, spreading misinformation, and even cheating. If any of you on the dais or in the audience openly encourage such behavior, then I encourage you to stop and show some leadership. We can all disagree, but it has to be done with a certain level of civility and decorum. Encouraging a Facebook administrator who is loose with the facts and who thoroughly despises our community and what it stands for is wrong and makes you part of the problem. In closing, I'd like to say I've been a proud member of the Rotary Club of Apopka for 34 years. I worked diligently to abide by the Rotary International four-way test, which reads as follows. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Win, lose, or draw, if you follow the four-way test, then you're automatically a winner in your particular endeavor. If not, then you open yourself to being forever marginalized. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just real quick, and I want to be very crystal clear. I run 3 Facebook pages, Kyle Becker, the commissioner page for this seat, and my Becker for Mayor page. And anybody that operates a Facebook page other than those 3 things, they're their own people. I can't control them. That's their own thing. But to your point, though, I will go on record. I voted to put our funds into the institution that you work at. And like I said on Monday night, it comes down to pricing, and it comes down to whether or not that bank has the liquidity and the cash on hand, capital on hand to make sure that our deposits are safe. In fact, I had an email with Mr. Bass, was that this morning or yesterday, as a result of the comments on Monday night's event. And it was just that. It's to make sure, okay, how are we insured at the bank? Are we insured through the FDIC insurance? Are we insured through capital adequacy? Are we, do you structure it where you federate our funds across other institutions so we do get under that 250 umbrella to other institutions? I don't know. And that's the question that I had. But I voted in favor of that piece of business, what was it, a year ago, 2 years ago, that we moved that to One Florida. And I would hope that we continually look at pricing, bank pricing, as it fluctuates, because you may not be able to offer at One Florida the same pricing last year that you can next year. So it's a constant review, but I don't think that we differed in our comments on Monday in terms of the importance necessarily on the surface of where that money is at. It's just to make sure that we have the best price and that it's secured.
Well, it would be nice if you would include that on your Facebook page, because as recently as Monday, one of the detractors on these particular Facebook pages was sitting out on the corner of Park and 441 holding up your sign. I'm sure you're aware of that.
And again,
so you have an inherent responsibility to make sure that that guy has the facts.
And I'm saying it right here, and I said it Monday. I mean, this is a public forum from which for me to do that, and I'll happily have that conversation. But I represent me. How other people operate, I can't control. They're adults themselves, and that's just the way that it goes.
So you're telling me that if somebody was out there catching aspersions on your family, your direct family, you would do nothing about it?
No, I just said that I would have the conversation with the person, but I'm saying I can't monitor people 100% of the time.
So have you had the conversation with the person?
Anytime people put an image out that I'm not comfortable with, I absolutely do.
Doesn't have much effect, does it?
Like I said, I can't control people 100% of the time.
That's obvious.
But to this specific piece of business, I've not taken issue with it.
Good afternoon. My name is Tony Benge. I'm the president of Benge Development, 609 East Pine Street, Orlando, 32801. I was the lone bidder in your RFP process. Our team spent $35,000 and countless hundreds of hours working with our architects, engineers, planners, same ones that are involved with Floridian Town Center, plus 2 other large developments we have here in Apopka. For our trouble, I was personally insulted had accusations leveled at me by Mr. Becker that because I opted to exercise my God-given right to support a political candidate of my choice, that was the basis of the denial of the RFP. I'm glad Mr. Becker said today that, oh, he stands by what he said. So let me just dive in case anyone didn't know. At exactly 4 hours and 47 seconds into the video, he says, I will state there has been a max contribution to the mayor's reelection bid from the interests that are tied to the LLC, who are the single bid put in for this process. And that alone should be enough for this to go back to market. And I put forth a motion that we reject this bid and put the RFP back into the market. Congratulations, you just committed a federal offense. You discriminated against me based on my political choice and used that as the sole basis to disqualify the RFP. And as disgusting as that is, the fact that the city now won't get a $10 million investment, we reallocated that money to Titusville. So we're building 350 apartments next to SpaceX and Project Kraken. That will be far more lucrative for our company. Apopka will suffer. Perhaps Mr. Becker and his family would like to guarantee the $10 million loan and go do the project himself because it had such sizzle. Well, that sizzle started with the contamination on the site next to the railroad tracks. And if you read the RFP, the city wants to sell a roughly 3-acre parcel, but they want half of it back improved for $900,000. And you wonder why you didn't get a lot of bids? Contaminated site, adjacent to the rail tracks, unbelievable restrictions on what could be done, but we were willing to do it to help Apopka. And for that effort, you insulted me. You inferred that somehow I was corrupt. I'm spending over $750 million in your community bettering it. You were at the debate the other night and had a temper tantrum about restaurants. I brought Apopka the first James Beard Award-winning restaurant it'll have. Was there a thank you? No. You insult me and insinuate I was corrupt. I don't know who I'm more disappointed with. The fact that you all voted to terminate, not even having to know what the hell was in it. And as you're all sitting here now trying to reset the record, shame on you all. That was a very tiresome, difficult, expensive RFP to prepare for. We did our part. Was it even considered? No. You haven't even looked at it. Instead, because I made a donation, a lawful donation, that was the basis of being terminated. You know something's really wrong when I go into the office the next day and I've got to go through every message of every attorney I've ever worked with begging me to hire them to sue the city now under a civil rights violation. I don't want to do that. Why do I want to hurt the people of Apopka because somebody decided to politicize an RFP for their own campaign? But I am going to hold back whether or not I am going to go after something with this because my lawyers feel I've got a damn good case for it. But I'm just more disappointed that after everything we've done, and since you like keeping score of who does donations, the last 2 years I've donated $16,000 to Shop with a Cop, $10,000 to the Chamber. We wrote a $50,000 check to the city of Apopka when we started that to bring on new help for you guys. Does that get mentioned? No. Just the fact I supported one candidate who you don't like. And you decided to use this moment and all the work leading up to this RFP to make your political grandstand. So every time you drive by a vacant site, thank Kyle Becker. He didn't want growth in the city. For Mr. Economic Development, you just conducted a master class in what not to do. So I am beyond disgusted, disappointed, but I'm really I'm stunned. What the hell were y'all thinking?
Losing anybody else? That's it. All right. Up We got consent agenda, 3 items. Anybody need to pull any of the 3 items from the consent agenda? Not look for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Smith,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bankson. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, got a business item. I know Jim's out, so Bobby's going to step in. I know he's not all that comfortable, but there's not a lot to it, so I just wanted to, you can go ahead and present that for us, please, sir.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, Bobby Howell, Planning Manager. This is a request to pursue a Level 2 and a Level 3 environmental assessment for the Gator Growers property, which is north of Camp Weewaw. It's going to be used to help acquire to expand Camp Weewaw. And staff is here for questions.
Any questions?
Are there any standing pines? I don't believe there are, but are there any of that in the area?
Not to my knowledge, sir. As you can see the aerial on the screen, you can see a lot of agricultural buildings.
Yeah, the reason I ask is for a level 2, that tends to draw the turtles that we all love
Oh,
to
yes.
protect. So
Absolutely.
I think we're going to be good there.
What would be the cost of the Phase 2 and Phase 3 studies if it's not funded by grants?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. I can go back
It's
and consult.
free. That we've got a
We have a
state grant to, so the Sumner family has already filed, we got the application to them. So they're, whoever they sell it to, if it's not the city, they'll at least, the Phase 2 and the Phase 3 audit will help them get to the point where somebody's comfortable buying, an ag property that's been in use for, 60 years probably. So anyway, it will help them, and then hopefully if we can figure out a way to get through that, we get the appraisal back and then bring it back as a business item. That's something we want to entertain.
I think how we left the last city council meeting is even if it came back at the appraised value of what we were thinking the last meeting, how are we funding this? And
Well, Edward, how much did we just get from Taurus last Friday?
Well, last Friday, you got about $670,000 on the parcel that was sold for them to continue their development. So you have that in mind, keep that in mind. That's, other land that was sold. And then you have some pieces that were sold before that as well. We can bring you all those dollars. We bring you the exact amount of those dollars, but you currently, last Friday, you sold about $670,000 worth of land that Taurus was required to buy per their agreement. So
all
you-
in, to get the appraisal, it's $3,500.
Correct. Right. The Brownsville grant will be paying for the Phase 2 and then the Phase 3 if needed.
Okay, any other questions for Bobby? Okay, anybody from the public wish to speak on this matter? If not, I'll look for a motion to approve the staff, authorize staff to complete an appraisal for the Gator Growers nursery property.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Bankson.
And second.
Second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, ordinance number 2895.
Okay, ordinance number 2895. An ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida, amending the future land use element of the Apopka Comprehensive Plan of the City of Apopka, changing the future land use designation from commercial to mixed use for certain real property located north of East Cimarron Boulevard and west of Sheeler Avenue, comprising 5.67 acres more or less, and owned by 3R Corp., providing for severability and for an effective date.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Commissioners. Phil Martinez, Planner 2 with the City's Planning Division. The applicant is proposing a small-scale future land use amendment from commercial to mixed use for approximately 5.67 acres. The subject property is highlighted in yellow and located north of East Cimarron Boulevard and west of Sheeler Avenue. The property is zoned MUD, or Mixed Use Downtown District, and the proposed mixed-use future land use is compatible with the existing mixed-use downtown zoning district. In addition, properties with a mixed-use future land use designation are found within the vicinity. The Development Review Committee and Planning Commission recommend approval of the proposed small-scale future land use amendment to mixed use, and the recommended motion for this afternoon is to accept the first reading of ordinance number 2895 and hold it over for second reading and adoption on February 16th, 2022. This concludes my presentation, and the applicant and I would be happy to address any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Phil?
I'm sure it's a misprint here on page 126. It says maximum one dwelling unit per 15 acres. I think that was printed wrong.
15 per one, yes.
Yeah,
Yes, good
so
catch.
1 per 15, I'd be for. But I objected to this before when we were talking about having multiple units because of Monroe, because of the neighborhoods there. That's still my concern. Again, I want to see this type of development come into the city, but it would take a lot of infrastructure, a lot more than that for that neighborhood and those streets to be able to handle that. I'm concerned about the level of traffic myself. And so I, again, restate that.
So a traffic study would be required there, right?
Should the applicant submit a development plan for this subject property, yes, a traffic study will be required.
Okay.
So under that mixed use, Phil, you want to, like, what all, I mean, we've got up to the 1 to 15, or up to 15 units per acre for apartments, but they could also do,
They can also do a maximum of 1.0 floor area ratio for non-residential uses. So should one have the mixed-use future land use and mixed-use downtown zoning, it opens up capability to do both residential and non-residential, whereas today, they only have commercial future land use. They can only do non-residential uses.
And the problem is that leaves us open-ended for them to be able to say, well, does qualify for that, therefore I want to put 15 units per acre. And that was my concern about other things that have come before us. So I would like to find a way where that type of use, that's acceptable because it's minimal, it's not overwhelming to the community, but to have something that can be used for that, and if they come and say, we qualify, therefore you can't tell us no, then the citizens that have expressed their concerns about that, and I really agree with, that's my concern. So is there a way that we can help accomplish that without it leaving an open end that we end up not being able to say no to?
and maybe that might be a Michael question or Bobby question.
Commissioner, as Phil was saying, the property would, if approved on the second reading, the mixed-use future land use would be assigned to it. It's already got a zoning of mixed-use downtown on it, which the mixed-use downtown zoning basically encompasses a whole lot of things in the code. And it's kind of looked at as a way to encourage redevelopment in some of the downtown. So right now with the future land use of commercial, all someone could do is a commercial building on it with a very low floor area ratio. So if with the adoption of the mixed use, it kind of opens up a lot of opportunities for development of the property. Just because they've indicated it might be residential doesn't mean it would be residential in the future necessarily. It could be a live-work environment, it could be an office building, it could be commercial, it could be a whole list of things.
And which I'd love to see all those things, but is there any way that we can say, okay, as long as it doesn't become a multi-use, which we're really saying that they can, what's the protection for the citizens there in that area that it will stay within, proper bounds in that way and still afford some flexibility for the developer?
That's going to be limited to the wording of the code. You cannot now arbitrarily impose restrictions within the land development code that go above and beyond what are currently written, unless they come in, practically speaking, if they come in under zoning with a planned development, then under a PD and a development agreement, there could be certain agreements and parameters that are going to be made in regards to the development. But if they don't come under a PD and try to develop under the existing land development code and what is a permitted use under the zoning code, they by right have that use by right as enumerated in the land development code.
So the same type of situation as the neighborhood across from the airport, and we had that discussion. So the bottom line is we need to change the code to reflect something that will allow this type of use without leaving an open end for it to be used different than maybe what they present to us initially.
And one thing I might add is if you see on the screen currently, the area in green is all the mixed-use downtown. So everything in the downtown's mixed use, including the building we're sitting in right now, it's mixed-use downtown is the zoning. The future land use on these are commercial, and there's a compatibility matrix in the land development code, section 1.8, that basically implements the type of zoning and future land use you can have on a parcel. So for instance, in the mixed-use downtown, compatible future land use designation is mixed use. So it is consistent with what the code envisions for future land use and zoning requirements in the mixed-use downtown zoning district.
And so let's hypothetical here that the developer says, listen, we want to do that. We want to limit residential, but we want that ability because there's other things we'd like to do. We move ahead, and for some reason, his development falls through, another developer comes in, and because we've given it that classification, they can say, I want to put in 15 units per acre, and you can't stop me because it's zoned for that.
They would have a
Correct?
right to, yes.
So there's no way to protect our citizens who come to us. We've seen this in different areas. That was my concern, because I don't think that use is the best use for that area, although there's other areas that'll work for. You know, again, we're not anti-business and growth. We just want to do it in a way that doesn't impact those who've already planted their life here. So if we need to create another category that can allow that, that type of mixed use, but protect in these areas, we don't want it high-density residents because of the impact, then I think we need to do that. And I don't want to gum up the process here for anybody, but, you know, I'm just concerned because other citizens have suffered the same fate.
When was this put in place, do you know, Bobby?
Mixed-use downtown was adopted in 2019 with the Land Development Code.
The whole, so
So
the whole rewrite?
Yeah, the whole rewrite zoned everything down here. Mixed-use downtown goes all the way out to 451 on 441.
And I was here, so, you know, I bear some responsibility, but, you know, we didn't really see that as the impact of it.
But I guess, assuming we did nothing, if at a commercial future land use, it would be just incompatible with the zoning classification, right? I mean, if it had a commercial future land use and they tried to do a mixed-use concept.
Correct, they couldn't.
Right.
Because the
But
future land use trumps zoning.
Okay.
Yes.
So we can't give exception without having to do that across the board.
And then we've got, I mean, but what if it came back with apartments, and we'd look at some kind of a study, you know, the road capacity and
Yes.
to make sure that we've.
Being that it's on a major roadway system, what is the percent requirement for commercial versus residential on that piece of property?
In regards to,
So on our mixed-use classifications, we have, depending on whether or not it's on the type of roadway that it is situated on, there's requirements that drive how much commercial is required versus residential. What would it be here? Do we know that?
that I'm not aware of, I'd have to research that.
Phil, you got something you want to add?
I'm familiar with those zoning requirements in the mixed-use East Shore Gateway zoning district, which is primarily found in the southwestern end of the city. But as far as the mixed-use downtown zoning district, we'll look into whether or not one would have to do a mixture of uses.
And also, the applicant is here, and she can, I think it would help to hear from her.
Sure.
What their vision is for the property. I think
Okay.
that would kind of help tell the whole story, too.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll have the applicant come up, and then we'll open up if there's any other, I know, folks.
Good afternoon. For the record, on behalf of the owner, Kim Fisher, Psycorp Engineering, 1614 White Dove Drive, Winter Springs. I do want to first thank staff. Staff has been really great dealing with, and they answer my phone calls, so I love that. I wish that could expand maybe to Orange County or something. So I do thank Bobby and Phil, because unless maybe they need caller ID, because I bug them all the time. But yeah, for this parcel, we are right next door to not a great shopping center. I'm just going to call it Dairy Queen because I identify everything with the fast food, but it's a little bit of a dilapidated, and we've got some residential behind us. We did have a community meeting. We didn't have any opposition. We are planning on for a 3-story building. There will be a clubhouse, an amenity center, a dog park. By any stretch of the imagination, we're going to not fully developing this site. There is going to be a pretty substantial amount of open space, green space on here. And if you've got any other questions, we look forward to working with the community.
You said you had a community meeting. Was that with all the residents right in front? Or did it include any of the residents from Christiana?
We sent out mailers. I believe it was 350 feet. Is that correct? Yes. 350 feet. And I believe we had 2 people responding. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's more of a rental community there. Because we had one of the people in attendance that said they don't live there. They rent it out. So we got the feeling that was more of a rental community.
because the residents that have contacted us don't live directly in front of where you are proposing this product. Mostly it was the residents on Christiana that had concerns regarding the impact of the traffic and just that the streets were too small for them.
Sure. Sure. And we do have to do a traffic study, and we are going to be having access from 436. I would imagine most of the traffic, at least from the south, is going to be utilizing 436 versus using Monroe. I wouldn't think that we're going to have any more on there than the shopping center there. Monroe is just not, yes, there's a lot less traffic, but I think most of it's going to come from 436. But that will also be in the traffic study that is done, so that they will have to analyze which direction, how many trips per day. We're not a very huge apartment complex, multifamily. It's, I think we're at maybe 86 units, so it's not a very big community at all.
Any other questions?
And one more thing to add, the apartments will be less of a traffic generator than commercial.
So no commercials planned?
Not at this time, no.
Will there be any allocation for future site commercial in that open space or green space area?
No, because the way the code is written, like when we wanted to explore doing a commercial building there, that would then have to take away from the multi-units. And then it was a little harder to separate the two in terms of then having to plat it to carve out basically an out parcel. So we did look at that and we did some concept plans and we spoke to the city about that, but that just wasn't working out.
So the average there, it says, is 2.659 persons per household. I'd like to know how they get the partial person, but, a little humor. But it's an increase of 226 persons. And so again, there's volume there. And I love the mixed-use concept, and this seems to be wholly towards the housing. And, hate to say, to come against anything development, but it's got to be something that's compatible. And I have been contacted by people that live in the area. I already had that concern even before they contacted me, but they have voiced those concerns. And I do think that in order for that to work, there would have to be a big infrastructure investment for that to not, truly become an issue there. There's already issue on that road, and so it would just further come against it, but it's just my perspective.
Pam, you want to come up? I mean, I know that it's way in front of you, but just as kind of at 40,000 feet, talk about, because you're obviously working with Winn-Dixie on the site next to them. So if you could just kind of give us a little comfort or give us some ideas on how you see it maybe coming about.
Well, the first thing is, the good news is, I just got an email yesterday from DOT in our efforts to work with them to get the speed limit lowered to 35 have come to fruition, so we'll be lowering the speed limit to 35. Now, I think that we're going to ask these folks to provide some way. We're trying to develop a walkable community there, and we've talked to DOT about that. They're totally on board with it. We're not going to add more capacity to 436. It's just not possible. So we're targeting a lower speed, bringing the speed down, making the area walkable. And because Winn-Dixie is going to be right next door, you can take some of the trip generation off right off the top. You've got that, you're going to have a lot of interconnectivity of trips. People will walk. So I understand your concern, but it was our desire when we did City Center to create a walkable area. I remember having discussions about safely getting people across 436, 441. So that's why we fixed that intersection with McGee. You've got Starbucks across the street, the beer hall, some other things. So I do see not using the standard trip generation rates for that project because of all the interconnectivity of the walkable amenities. But I do understand your concern, but traffic's just coming, and it's coming in a place where we want it, so.
But didn't you just say there's no impact on 436? And I thought you said there would be no impact on Monroe because they would mainly be going out to 436.
No,
What am I misunderstanding?
There's going to be impact on 436, and there's going to be impact on Monroe, but I would agree you're going to see most of the traffic accessing and exiting the site through onto 436.
So
If
not
that's-
Monroe.
If that's making a connection to the shopping center to the east to get to the light at Sheeler, or if it's through direct access onto 436, that's still where you're going to see most of your traffic going back behind the site to get on Monroe, to come over to McGee, or to cut over another way it's possible. And if we're only talking about 90 units, we're talking about less than 400 daily trips or 40 peak hour trips. So in my world, that's not a lot of traffic.
So Pam, on the 436 at Sheeler, is there room there? I mean, maybe I'm getting way too far into the weeds on that. Enough room where we could put a turn lane there? Or do you see, I don't know what we've got there, but it would seem to be, that would be the logical place if they were gonna come out. I think, obviously Monroe may or may not need to be improved, but their way back to 436 is probably gonna be at Sheeler. Do we have enough right-of-way there to put a?
Yeah, I can't think of what the geometry looks like right now, but usually we have right-of-way if we need to do a turn lane.
Okay.
So I don't believe that's our signal, but Orange County's been very accommodating lately, so I don't think that they would fight us on an improvement.
And that's Orange County Road, though.
436 is DOT's.
No, Sheeler.
Sheeler, yeah, and that's their signal that they maintain.
Okay.
And so if there's going to be an entrance on the 436, where would it be?
Well, that's not a given that there's going to be an entrance on 436. There are some topography issues there and some driveway spacing issues, and they haven't come in with that yet. We haven't seen the plan to see if it fits the spacing. There is what looks like an existing curb cut there right now. It's about this steep. That's what you're getting to.
Yes.
And I don't know that that's a viable connection point anymore, since I think that's been there since before 436 and 441 merged. There certainly would have to be a turn lane, but then you become into conflict with the Dairy Queen.
Correct.
And we just spent about $3 million fixing that, and you can be assured I'm not going to recommend approval of anything that I think would undo the fix that we've done. But I know that we can find safe and adequate access for this project.
So you're suggesting that this traffic is going to go through the shopping center over to Sheila?
I think that that's something that we need to look at and see if we can make it work. What would be better is if they could go through to the Winn-Dixie, but I think that there's such a major drop-off and there's going to be a bunch of retaining walls that that's not going to be an option. So that is why we're having to investigate other alternatives. It's possible they'll have to make improvements to Monroe so that that becomes a safe and viable option for some of their drivers.
So that is a possibility to make improvements to Monroe?
I think it would be a requirement.
Okay.
Depending on their impacts, again, 40 or 80 units and 400 daily trips is not a huge number, but certainly they have to deal with their impacts.
And Pam, if there's a way, I mean, because I know Winn-Dixie's, we're kind of at the 1 yard line now, but is there a way to at least reach out and say, hey, is there an opportunity to have access to this?
Well, I think when we looked at their concept, it's not physically doable.
Okay,
Because of the way
that's
the
what-
Winn-Dixie, yeah.
Okay.
There really is a severe drop-off there that Winn-Dixie
Right.
had to deal with through retaining walls.
Yeah, that's the thing that could move the needle for me, but without those assurances, again, we're in a situation where, as this begins to happen, we're gonna have the community say, why didn't you protect us? So, again, I'd love to see us be able to try and do something, and if there's a way to work that out, but until then, I'm hesitant myself, unless we can figure out a way within code to, But again, their desire is to do multi-housing, so.
We're going to be dealing with traffic, whatever goes in there, and I do agree, commercial generates more than this residential land use. So whatever y'all decide works best for you on that site. I've got my eye on the traffic, and, you know, it's just, you know, you still have to go in and out of the site regardless of what the use is.
Mr. Becker, you got any?
No, I was just going to say, I mean, we've got obviously 2 bites of this apple. We've got a second hearing that comes up. Is there any possible way that we can get the concept plan for this location just so we can visually see it? Because I think that would help alleviate some of the, because I think we've all gotten the residential feedback of Christiana and the traffic that comes south on Christiana and goes on Monroe. So it might be helpful to see that concept plan.
Absolutely. We'll get that sent over to Bobby and Phil this afternoon. Maybe this morning, maybe tomorrow morning.
Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, anybody from the public? Wayne, come on up.
Hi there. I'm Wayne Levesque. I live at 823 East Orange Street. I'm 2 blocks from this project that we're talking about here. And yes, I am very concerned about the traffic, that it's going to be more traffic on Monroe and Christiana. That road is already a speed zone as it is. I don't know if any of you commissioners have ever really looked at that road, but it's a speed zone. They come off of 436 and they come down Monroe, and it says 25. There's no such thing as 25 on Monroe. And they come down Christiana, they fly down Christiana, and I'm not saying everybody does it, but it's a high traffic area as it exists now. And I'm opposed to having an apartment complex there with more residences. And I like what I'm hearing about, you know, maybe working on Monroe. I think it needs to be looked at, to be redone. And, you know, Monroe shifts a little bit. As you come up to Christiana, it shifts up, you know, and that's kind of dangerous there. If you're right at the stop sign at Christiana, trying to make a left or right on Monroe, there's a hill on the right, and cars come flying over that. I almost got hit a couple times, and I've lived there 40 years, and because cars just come down there too fast. And a lot of cars during the regular traffic hour, you can't even get out of that stop sign. I mean, I've sat there 5, maybe 10 minutes trying to get out of there. So, you know, I just feel like that I like what I'm hearing as far as traffic study, and I like them to come back with a proposal how that traffic is going to be maintained or how it's going to run in and out of there. But when you got the Winn-Dixie there too, you can't tell me there's not going to be more traffic. I'm not convinced of that. And I'm not opposed of anything being developed, but, you know, we got to make, you know, be common sense about this. You know.
Pam, would that, I don't know if that'd qualify for speed humps, would it?
I don't know.
No, I'm asking Pam.
Oh. It may, it's got the right posted speed, I'll have to check the traffic volume.
Okay.
And the topography,
So-
but it may qualify for speed humps, and, you know, I'm just dying to do a project. So,
Yeah, I know.
I'll look at that tomorrow.
So Wayne, we'll, let us kind of noodle on this thing, and we'll come back, and what I would like, you know, I know you represent a lot of the neighbors in that little area. Maybe what we'll do is have you and the applicant and Pam kind of sit down and kind of figure out, you know, between now and the next hearing.
Yeah,
kind
we'd
of see
like
if we
that,
can't
'cause
come up
our
with a-
neighbors, we are concerned.
Yeah,
Not just the
absolutely.
350, we're beyond the 350 feet.
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
But we are concerned about our neighborhood.
Correct,
You know, we
correct.
care about our neighborhood, and we just don't want to get it overrun by traffic.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
and, you know, and I think it hurts property value too, so, if you ask me. High dense traffic, you know. So.
And so you're suggesting the speed humps between between McGee and Christiana? Is that what we're talking about?
I'm not suggesting any speed.
Oh, no.
You don't want,
Oh.
I'm just bringing that up as maybe a possibility.
I'd like not to see speed.
Okay.
I mean, I'd like to see if we can do something else to
Okay.
to solve this problem. And if that all goes through well, then, you know, I'll be happy.
But if I can ask that if the roadways were able to be improved and that flow of traffic and the concern about the danger part there was addressed, would there be more of an openness to the community?
Yes.
And hopefully that if you guys can get together, you can find a solution that
And
that
something
can
to
work
be
for
done with that
everybody, then I'm
intersection.
all
Yeah.
support it.
Christiana Monroe, they need a stoplight there or something, or three-way stop,
It won't,
something. needs to be
we could do a three-way stop tomorrow. Well, is that our road?
I don't know, but it just,
Yeah. Okay.
that's all I'm asking.
Yeah, no,
But-
right, fair.
It is the Apopka Speedway.
Yeah.
I mean, people trying to
Yeah.
It's a
escape
dangerous road. It
436
really
traffic.
is. It's very
So,
dangerous there.
And if, when you're looking at it, if you can also look and see if you can't align the road a little bit better to get rid of that
Right.
offset that's there as well. I think that will also help. Right there at Christiana and Monroe.
Yeah, the more you straighten out the road, the more it becomes a speedway.
The more what?
The more you straighten it out.
And then what
Yeah.
you're talking about where it kind of comes like this.
Yep.
And,
It's already a speedway.
yeah, I mean, it would just make it worse.
Oh, I see.
But I'll look at it to
Okay.
see if there's,
Okay.
something that we can do with that, see how much right of way we have and, see whatever other improvements. I kind of have this feeling that, with people coming in and out of Winn-Dixie, it's not gonna remain that favored kind of cut-through street that it has been in the past. It's just gonna be regular people going in and out of Winn-Dixie, but that's still to be, to be seen. As traffic increases on 436, people tend to deviate to other places.
Well, let me ask also, when Dixie comes, will their driveway line up with Christiana or no?
I don't think it does. I can't in my,
I think this property would be more lined up with Christiana. I
No,
think.
they're farther away.
their driveway is about, do you remember where it lines up? I'd have to look at the plans to see where,
Well, let's get back together, and let's kind of noodle on a little bit, and between now and the next hearing, we come up, kind of have some ideas before we, approve this thing. I think that makes good sense, okay?
and I'll have time to run the numbers
right.
on the different trip generation, and you can see that comparative analysis
Okay.
of what we're talking about.
and the four-way stop at Usler made a huge difference, so it might be part of what could help there. So
It'd be
again,
nice to have, if we did
Thank you.
line
I was
that up
highly
with
criticized.
with Christiana, have a four-way stop there versus a three-way.
Right,
'Cause then
that's
you
why I
got-
thought that would really work.
Yeah, that would be, yeah.
We've needed a stop sign there. for
Yeah,
years,
yeah. Okay, so give us a little time. Anybody else from the public? Okay, if not, we'll close the public hearing, look for a motion with the opportunity to, work on it between now and 2 weeks from now.
I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Got a motion by Commissioner Bankson to approve, let's see here, what is this one? Ordinance number 2895 at first reading and hold over for second reading and adoption. Got a motion by Commissioner Bankson.
Velasquez,
Got a
second.
second by Commissioner Velasquez. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Next up, ordinance number 2896.
Ordinance number 2896, an ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida, amending the future land use element of the Apopka Comprehensive Plan of the City of Apopka, changing the future land use designation from county rural to city industrial for certain real property located north of East Keene Road and west of Clarcona Road, comprising 12.74 acres more or less, and owned by AED Dewar Nursery 2019 Trust, providing for severability and for an effective date.
Bill?
The applicant is requesting a small-scale future land use amendment from county rural to industrial for approximately 12.74 acres. The subject property is highlighted in yellow and located north of East Keene Road and west of Clarcona Road. The property is zoned T, Transitional District, and the applicant has applied for the IL, Light Industrial Zoning District, which is on the next agenda item. The proposed industrial future land use is compatible with the proposed light industrial zoning district. In addition, properties with an industrial future land use designation are within the vicinity. The Development Review Committee and Planning Commission recommend approval of the small-scale future land use amendment to industrial, and the recommended motion for this afternoon is to accept the first reading of ordinance number 2896 and hold it over for second reading and adoption on February 16th, 2022. This concludes my presentation, and the applicant and I would be happy to address any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Phil or the applicant? Anybody from public wish to speak on this matter? Not, we'll close the public hearing. Look for a motion to approve ordinance number 2896 at first reading and hold over for second reading and adoption.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Velasquez.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Becker. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, ordinance number 2897.
Ordinance number 2897, an ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida, changing the zoning from T Transitional District to IL Light Industrial District for certain real property located north of East Keene Road and west of Percona Road, comprising 12.74 acres more or less, and owned by AED Dewar Nursery 2019 Trust, providing for severability and for an effective date.
The applicant is proposing a rezoning from T Transitional District to IL Light Industrial District for approximately 12.74 acres. The subject property is highlighted in yellow and located at the same location as the previous agenda item. The proposed light industrial zoning is compatible with the previously proposed industrial future land use. The Development Review Committee and Planning Commission recommend approval of the proposed rezoning to light industrial, and the recommended motion for this afternoon is to accept the first reading of ordinance number 2897 and hold it over for second reading and adoption on February 16th, 2022. This concludes my presentation, and the applicant and I are happy to address any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Phil, the applicant? Anybody from the public wish to speak on this matter? Not, we'll close the public hearing. Look for a motion to approve ordinance number 2897 at first reading and hold over for a second reading and adoption.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Bankson,
Second.
second by Commissioner Velasquez. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, ordinance number 2898.
Ordinance number 2898, an ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida, changing the zoning from T Transitional District to Kelly Park Interchange District Mixed Use, KPIMU, and assigning a neighborhood overlay district for certain real property generally located east of State Road 429, west of Plymouth Sorrento Road, south of Kelly Park Road, and north of Joey McGuckin Road, owned by Diane Reed Schoolsby, Deborah Reed Wilbarger, Diane Donahoe, and Dwana McClure, comprising 41.2 acres, providing for directions to the Community Development Director, severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Jean Sanchez with the Community Development Department. This is a request to accept the first reading of ordinance number 2898, proposing to rezone the Laurel Oaks properties from T Transitional to KPIMU, Kelly Park Interchange Mixed Use, with neighborhood overlay and its accompanying master plan. The properties fall within the Kelly Park Interchange form-based code area. Property is approximately 41 acres situated east of State Road 429, west of Plymouth Sorrento Road, south of Kelly Park Road, and north of Joey McGuckin Road. Properties currently have a future land use designation of mixed use, permitting up to 5 dwelling units per acre in the KPI area. They currently have a zoning district of T Transitional. The accompanying master plan proposes the development of a 126 lot subdivision consisting of single-family detached residences and proposing a density of 3.07 per acre. 3.07 units per acre. The residential units will have a minimum lot width of 55 feet. There are no minimum or maximum lot size and living area standards in the KPI form-based code. The proposed access points consist of access along Plymouth Sorrento Road and additional access points to the north and south that are intended to link to future developments to the planned thoroughfare that will eventually connect to Kelly Park Road. The applicant has worked with staff to design the site in anticipation of projected traffic within the KPI area by adding traffic circles at those points identified to be of concern. Applicant also proposes an 8-foot wide multiple-purpose trail from the southern end of the subdivision to the northern terminus to promote connectivity between developments, encourage pedestrian traffic away from Plymouth Sorrento Road, and lead to the internal passive path. Stormwater ponds are amenitized with the 5-foot wide paths and seating areas. The applicant will also provide a pool and a cabana. The open space required is 20%, while the applicant is proposing approximately 22%. The DRC recommends approval of the rezoning in the master plan, and on January 11, 2022, Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the proposed change of zoning and the master plan. The recommended motion is to approve the first reading of ordinance number 2898 and hold it over for second reading and adoption on February 16, 2022, or thereafter. Staff and applicant are available for questions.
Okay, any questions for Jean? Okay, anybody from public wish to speak on this matter?
Just one quick question. So is the ultimate end game that, that street aid that goes northbound for the northbound connectivity, if conceivably when the property north of that gets sold and eventually developed, will that road go all the way up through to where the stub out is at Publix today?
Correct.
Is that the intent?
Yep,
Okay.
exactly. There's just one more parcel north of this adjacent that is, we're expecting they'll develop probably sometime soon.
Okay. And then is anything, what's the long-term plan for Joey McGuckin Road?
I'm actually hoping it's a short-term plan.
Okay.
This developer is designing Joey McGuckin, which is not really a road right now, from Plymouth Sorrento over to the toll road.
Okay.
And maybe I can get him to do it a little further to the Rizzer property. On all the parcels in the area, the parcel to the south where they'll line up with, and that north-south road, which it's probably going to get shifted a little bit in the MDP, it will go straight down through the development south to Appy Lane. So you're going to have a straight grid there, or a north-south road that goes that length. It will shift over and then go all the way up to Public. So it will take some traffic off. Joey McGuckin then, it's the opening under the toll road. And the Rochelle Holdings parcel, which is that 200-something acre, that's going to auction next week or so.
Yeah.
We've told the auctioneer and anybody else that asked us about it, they're going to be required to build the rest of the road through their property, where it will connect at Golden Gem, and connect to Sadler on the west side of Golden Gem. And the two developments on the north and south side of Sadler are donating right-of-way.
Okay.
So we've got, eventually we're going to get out to 441, and when the Rochelle Holdings piece comes in, we're, I don't know, 70% there.
Okay.
Yeah, and Bobby, I don't know who would want to take this on. This is for another meeting, maybe next meeting if you got it. If we've got some clarity on this, the auction, wouldn't be bad to bring it to City Council, kind of how you see things, you or Jim. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind when you've got enough clarity on what's happening with the Risser property.
Absolutely. We got a brochure about the auction,
Yeah.
which I could forward to the city.
Yeah, why don't you do that to start out with, yeah, and then when we've got, I guess, after the auction, tell us who the bidders are and kind of what, if they've got a vision, maybe even have them come in if we can, just to kind of give us all a kind of a sneak preview of what might happen there.
Absolutely. The date of the
Okay.
auction is March 22nd.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anybody from the public wish to speak on this matter? If not, we'll close the public hearing, look for a motion to approve ordinance number 2898 at first reading and hold over for a second reading and adoption.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Smith.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Becker. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, ordinance number 2899.
Ordinance number 2899, an ordinance of the City of Apopka, Florida, to extend its territorial and municipal limits to annex pursuant to Florida Statute 171.044, the hereinafter described lands situated and being in Orange County, Florida, owned by G&B Sorrento LLC, located north of West Kelly Road, Park Road, and east of Plymouth Sorrento Road, providing for directions to the city clerk, severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
The applicant is proposing to annex approximately 5 acres located north of West Kelly Park Road and east of Plymouth Sorrento Road. The subject property is highlighted in yellow on the right map and consists of a single-family home. This proposed annexation is in accordance with the Florida statutes and the joint planning agreement between the City of Apopka and Orange County. The Development Review Committee recommends approval of the proposed annexation, and the recommended motion for this afternoon is to accept the first reading of ordinance number 2899 and hold it over for second reading and adoption on February 16th, 2022. This concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to address any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Phil? I just, the only thing is, it's the only property on that side of Plymouth Sorrento. I don't quite understand what's the motive to annexing in the city?
This property is subject to the Kelly Park form-based code area, so should this property annex into the city and the
It's
applicant
ready,
wants to
it's ripe
develop,
to do something else
they would
with
have
it.
to do the small-scale future land use amendment and a rezoning master plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Which
that
would,
makes,
which of course go back to the city council.
okay. Okay. Any other questions? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Anybody from the public wish to speak? Okay, if not, we'll close the public hearing. Look for a motion to approve ordinance number 2899 at first reading and hold over for a second reading and adoption.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Bankson,
Second.
second by Commissioner Velasquez. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, Resolution 2022-03.
Resolution 2022-03, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Apopka, Florida, accepting and approving the designated portion of the Orange County Local Mitigation Strategy.
All right, good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners, members of the public, Sean Wyland, Fire Chief. On January 11th of this year, the Orange County Board of Commissioners adopted the latest local mitigation strategy. It's done every 5 years. And this extends down to each municipality within Orange County, and it's a major part that allows us to apply for those post-disaster funds through the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program through FEMA. Again, the purpose of this is to help communities implement hazard mitigation measures following a presidential major disaster declaration in the areas of the state requested by the governor. And again, it's to enact mitigation measures to help reduce the risk of life and property from future disasters. It is paramount to our municipality as this is the mechanism that allows us to receive federal funding post-disaster through this grant program. It allows us to basically place our projects onto the Orange County task list. So if I have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them now.
Any questions for the chief? Anybody from the public wish to speak on this matter? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Look for a motion to approve Resolution 2022-03.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Smith,
Second.
second by Commissioner Velasquez. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, Vladimir.
Resolution number 2022-04, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Apopka, Florida, amending the budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021, and ending September 30th, 2022, providing for a budget amendment.
Vladimir Ortega, Finance Director, City of Apopka. This resolution 2022-04, it relates to amending a Hurricane Irma reimbursement that we received in 2019 for $10,000, well, the funds were approximately $24,000. And this, we received a letter on January 10th, 2022, requesting for repayment of some of those funds, the obligated portion related to Alternative Project Business Incubator from FEMA. I am going to have Chief Wyland explain more about these funds, and they were related to 2019. So they're asking just for a portion to be reimbursed, $10,132.
Thank you, Chief.
Good afternoon again, Sean Wyland, Fire Chief. Basically, as Vladimir was stating, we had a hurricane roll through here back in 2017. Believe it or not, we're still dealing with some of the recovery from that Hurricane Irma. We'd had about 14 different projects we dealt with throughout the city. One of the buildings that was in existence at the time was the UCF incubator. And there was damages sustained to that building in the amount of $109,000 when FEMA came out and did their assessment. Throughout the years, because it's been years we've been dealing with this, obviously the building was raised. It's no longer in existence. One of the unique things about some of these processes we go through is we're allowed to apply in those situations where those buildings no longer exist for alternate projects, alternate mitigation projects. So this qualified for one of those. When FEMA looks at it, they look at that original $109,000. They do a study based on, even though we didn't receive any insurance monies for that building, they do an assessment of what we approximately would have received. So that amount was around $84,000 that they think we would have received through insurance for that building. So that's what drops that $109,000 down to the $25,000 that you see there. With that amount, we were allowed to apply for an alternate project. what we decided to do, getting with Public Services back in 2019, was to put in place some lift station generators for sewage lift stations. It's part of the mitigation strategy that we could apply towards that. We went through that process. It actually got approved. We got the money forwarded to us. It was obligated back in 2019. They just now got back to us as how long this kind of process is taking, that one of these sites, they are no longer approving. So they're asking us. One of the things that happened, because I knew this was an alternates project when we first sent it over to finance, is I earmarked it and said, do not spend it yet because it's not guaranteed, because of, again, the closeout process that FEMA goes through to look for some of that stuff. That's kind of the long story of how we've gotten. We received the funds. They're asking for half of it back because they're only going to fund one of those specific sites.
Any questions for the chief?
So basically, we're just returning money that, for a building that no longer exists.
Yes, ma'am.
That's it.
And we actually got,
Yeah.
we're still ahead a little bit, so.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, anybody from the public wish to speak on this matter? Not, we'll close the public hearing. Look for a motion to approve Resolution 2022-04.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Velasquez.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bankson. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. City Council reports. Commissioner Velasquez, you want to start us out?
Other than, Saturday Sounds, I'm always promoting that. Just wanted to kind of say that I appreciate that, I read an article this morning regarding the Maitland Hotel and that you responded to it. And, I commend you for, with the migrant workers, that it didn't get more divisive than that, and that you were able to temper that, the demonstration. So, I was happy to read that article and that you had done that.
Mr. Bankson?
Yeah, I'd like to do something where I want to send a couple emails to Ed that you can pass to the other commissioners. Again, I can't do that on my own. But basically, again, dealing with the reserve policy guideline. And this is directly from the GFOA. And I just want there to be a clear understanding, because the figures are thrown out consistently about the 16.7%. That's the minimum, and according to their guidelines, we should add to that. Other successful cities have had that. And again, this is something that's been my baby for the beginning. And so I kind of want everybody to get an understanding of why it's more important. There's three key reasons. They list 6 different things, I believe, in the article. But what we use, they basically say the 16.7 is the starting point for every city. Then you look at your city and you add accordingly based upon your situations, whether you live in a storm zone, which again, when I first presented this, honestly, I got some smirks, not by anybody here, got some smirks and dissolution. Within a year, we'd had 2 hurricanes within that next year. And, but that's not the only thing. The next thing that, again, the GFOA says you need to look at is things that we cannot control, such as what Tallahassee may do, changes in that will affect our bottom line. If we don't have that there, then we're scrambling, and the last place we need to dig into is the taxpayer pockets. That is something that we all have to bear corporately. I just want to make sure that we don't do that as a knee-jerk reaction because we weren't prepared. And the third thing is opportunities. And if you don't have it when they come, then you can't move on that. I'm not suggesting something that is overage. They also have guidelines to not doing too much. What we can look at, and then the second email literally gives a template that we could look at together as a council, as a commission, and say, okay, let's fill in the blanks for us. What works for us to give us room? Again, it's not something that is untouchable if there's a good policy of how to do it. And they talk about that as well. So if I can, I'd like to pass that on to you, not belabor today, but I think it would just give a clearer understanding of why I push for that, not to creating particular issues, but again, so that we're prepared and in the driver's seat, whether it's something that we have no control over or whether it's an opportunity that comes our way that puts us in a better position. So I'm allowed to do that, correct?
Yeah.
that I can.
Well, you can present, you can present whatever you want to present right now. We're in open meeting, we're in the
Well, I
sunshine.
don't want to read through it. These are just the GFOA.
Just blind copy us all and you're fine.
Well, no, I mean,
Yeah.
it's,
So
if
can
you wish to
I,
express this to the fellow commissioners, we are currently in an open meeting. You can distribute that information now and discuss it further, or even set aside time at a further commission meeting to discuss that,
so I can
that item.
forward these emails right now?
You can, if you were to be able to
I don't have them
print,
printed out, so if I need to
Okay.
print them out, I'll do that next time.
if you
I
want to
just
print them
thought-
out and then hand, you can hand them to each
Okay.
commissioner and discuss them, because they'll be discussed and it'll be handed out in the open, plus there'll be a record contained of the information that you'll be providing.
Okay, I just thought if it was presented publicly, then I could do that.
No,
Okay.
I don't want to.
It's just informational, it's
Right.
all public.
Right,
It's
but-
the GFOA's recommendations and the guidelines that they use for cities. So I just think it'll be a help for us all.
Where did you go for that?
It's the GFOA
Oh, okay.
website.
And one of the things, is interesting you bring that up, I've been talking to Edward and Vladimir here in the last week or so, and one of the things that we have, Commissioner Bankson, is we have cash reserve, okay? Cash is cash. But when you sell a piece of property, or buy a piece of property, it's either reducing a reserve, I mean, because you can have a reserve that's a non-liquid asset.
Right.
You know, for instance, we just sold some property at the town center. Well, it goes into our reserves, but it's kind of, to me, that's funny money, because it's not really, we haven't saved that money. We just,
Transferred it from one form to another.
Exactly, and Sandpiper will be another one, we sell that. We sold, the airport property. So what I've asked Vladimir to help me with, and Edward, is to have a cash balance, and then you could have adjustments. We're looking, hopefully, buying some property for Public Works, to do some additional retention. So if we buy that property, and it's a different, reserve, it's utility reserve, but still you have your cash reserves, and then I want to have the land purchases or sales, so that you've got a real true picture, because if for instance, we sold Marshall Lake a couple years ago, but before I got here, and it went into general reserves, which it should have been in utilities, but, and then we've got, some other things, but it's just nice to have, it's a better picture than just cash, if you're buying or selling property, than just having straight cash reserves. So I've asked them to help me with that, and I think my next our next commission meeting will kind of show you what I'm talking about, but we can also then discuss what, the GOFA.
GFOA, yeah. And one other point as well is our bond rating, and we have an excellent bond rating. We want to keep that, and that's one of the things that they mention of why you don't just skim there. But it gives, if you don't read the whole document, it gives the impression that this is the recommendation, the 2 months. That's the foundation to build upon. And so I just want to get that to everyone. I think if everyone has a chance to parse through that, they're like, okay, I see that. And again, we don't have to be like everybody else. We do what works for us. We don't want our hands tied, but at the same time, we just want to be prepared for what's coming. So I'll get those prepared for next time, and I'll present it to everyone. Thank you.
Commissioner Smith.
All right, Commissioner Bankson, we're on the same page as far as the reserves are concerned. I think you've heard me mention several times, I thought it ought to be at 25%. So we're on the same page. Secondly, in reference to the presentation that Mr. Dunton presented in reference to the Legacy Education Center, James McKnight came to me. He was a resident of Apopka, former NFL player, and said that he had some ideas as to how we could help to improve our community through an educational process. And he had been a part of the Legacy Education Center in Virginia. And so he and we had a conversation and exchanged ideas. And so I think we came together with the same conclusion that this would be an ideal project. After that, we formed a committee of residents that came together, and we sat down and we talked about the pros and the cons of having this kind of a program here in the city of Apopka. And there's a lot of excitement that generated from that. And so as a result of that, then we invited Mr. Duncan to come from Virginia to come and meet with us, and we did that on last night. And so at our meeting last night, there was so much enthusiasm and positive reinforcement that this was the right direction to go in. And so we agreed that we would bring this Legacy Education Center to Apopka and be that pilot here in the state of Florida. An outstanding program, post-secondary, as well as offering GED for those students that fell through the crack, maybe even finish high school with a certificate of completion rather than a diploma. So it was all win-win. And there was a couple of individuals that was a part of the committee on last night that even saw some streams of money that would be possible to come and support the project as well. And so I cautioned them. I said, well, I need to bring this before City Council before it gets out that this is what we are doing. And so that's why we asked Mr. Dunton if he would remain overnight and come today and speak to the council. So it's a win-win project, one that we think is going to be of a great benefit to our city and to our residents. And, I'm a former educator, so I'm big on education, and I just want to see the climate of our community improve and prepare for that workforce that we're talking about that's coming, so that we can attract the best and the brightest companies to come to our city, because we have the workforce that they would need in order for them to maintain their businesses here in the city of Apopka. So that's what it was. It was just finalized, like I said on last night, that was the consensus of the committee. That this was something that we wanted to do and thought would be a benefit to our city. And so, we have this sunshine thing, so we can't talk to one another. And so that's why sometimes things only come up here at City Council meeting. So we love for your support and endorsement of this activity. And like you said, that once we're proving ourselves, and then we'll come back and
Well, Commissioner Smith, and you know that I sit on, the Career Source, the state board. So that's, hundreds of millions of dollars goes through that state board. So what I'd love to do is if I could sit down with your guys, and obviously can't do it together, but let me see if they've got enough of a track record in Virginia that there's an opportunity there at Career Source to maybe get some additional funding. We do the summer program that comes from Career Source. A lot of the dollars there are all Career Source dollars. Obviously, they're federal dollars, state dollars coming down to the local level. So,
Well, we're going to meet again on February the 15th, and I'll exclude myself, and I won't attend, and I will have them to extend to you an invitation.
Okay.
And so, like I said, this was something that was brought forth, and we thought it was an excellent idea and be a great benefit to the city of Apopka.
So definitely keep me posted on that. I would love to show up, and then I would even probably maybe try to zoom in somebody from Tallahassee about the program and try to get their input. I think I've got a meeting next week or the following week with my state board of Career Source. So
all right,
that'd be awesome.
And of course, this is Black History Month, and so we want to make sure that we shine and we highlight all the great attributes and contributions of our African American community. And of course, we always want to remember Commissioner Alonzo Williams, that was the first elected African American to this city council. So we're just so grateful for all those things. And I'll be going to Tallahassee next week on behalf of the Florida League of Cities as advocacy for our city. So I'll be in Tallahassee.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Becker.
Yeah, I share Commissioner Smith's ideas and joining our residents as we celebrate Black History Month, and also to our Chinese residents that celebrated the Happy New Year yesterday as well. So with that, that's it.
Okay, Edward?
So this is the financial update. Very positive news. We're going in the right direction. Hopefully, we will stay in this direction. But you can see from your handout that for January, of course, this is January's collection, or January's when we receive the money, so we receive them in January for November. You can see there's just over $1 million, or 43% more than it was last year this same month. So big difference there. And if you look over to the right, you can see that we are about $179,000 above the budget, or over budget where we currently stand. Now, keep in mind, this is just a 4-month period, and it averages as we move through. But this is good, positive news that we're at least meeting or exceeding the state's numbers. So that's a positive note. And with that, that's all I've got.
Awesome. Okay. What do you got there, Michael?
All right. Brief item. I think it was briefly mentioned earlier in the council meeting, but on Friday, we did close another parcel of the city center, assemblage of parcels. So that closing was terminated. I believe we've got one left in order to complete the closing for. The parcel that was closed is I think it's the middle parcel. It constitutes a middle parcel within inside the city center complex. So that was completed on Friday. Also, I'm just going to make this quite brief, but I'm sure I'll get ribbed for it later. But in addition to today being Groundhog's Day, today was also National Signing Day. And I just want to put on the record, my son signed his letter of intent to play baseball at Keystone College in Factoryville, Pennsylvania. They had a ceremony at DeLand High School this morning for him to sign his NCAA papers. And a month from today, I can't say whether or not he may or may not take the mound because the DeLand Bulldogs are coming down to play the Apopka Blue Darters on March 2nd at, I believe, 7 p.m. on the baseball diamond. So I'll be rushing from that council meeting to make it to the stands in time to see whether or not he pitches that day.
You won't know till.
He won't know. He's been right for now. He's slated in long relief because they're basically beginning to groom him. He's expected already as a freshman in college to be a long reliever, first arm out of the bullpen. So for his senior year, they're kind of beginning to get him into that mode so that he just kind of transitions straight into that into college.
Awesome.
So aside from that, that's it.
Thank you. All right, mayor's report. Just want to let you know, HB 1431. It's a bill it's a restaurant bill, as I call it, and we partnered with the city of Orlando and city of Edgewood so all three of us have a bill exactly identical in what they do. And what it does, for people who don't realize, restaurants, if you're under 150 seats, if you want to have alcohol, as in liquor, you have to buy a license, and these licenses go for north of $100,000. And I was talking to Francisco, the restaurant owner, maybe he's looking to come to Town Center, and he said, yeah, you can buy it for north of $100,000, or you can lease it. Get this, lease a license for $1,800 to $2,000 a month. It's crazy. So anyway, we found out that Orlando was doing this bill, and so we wanted to piggyback on it. So basically what it does is it drops the requirements of 2,500 square feet and seating of 150 people. So anything above that, you don't have to get this $100,000 plus license. So what we've done is the bill we're filing, 1431, will reduce that down to 1,800 square feet and 80 people, as long as 51% of the sales are food. So when I told Francisco, I said, hey, we got this bill up there. He says, oh gosh, so we can't afford to sell alcohol at our store or our restaurant in Maitland because we can't afford that license. I said, well, how about this? And he says, man, that's a game changer for us. So real excited, tomorrow at, I'm not sure what time, the second committee of reference is called the Regulatory Reform Subcommittee. We'll be meeting, and that bill will be up on the agenda. It passed out of the local delegation meeting unanimous, and it passed out of the first committee, which is where I was last week, unanimous. So really excited about that bill, which will, I think, give us a lot of opportunities. Now, the one thing I'll tell you is it's only in the CRA, because you got to be kind of careful. You don't, if you ask for $1 million, and you get zero, I'd rather get, so the CRA, which it's a lot easier to justify that we're getting this license for those small restaurants within our CRA, which is obviously the area of critical importance for us to move forward. So I really feel good about this bill, and so hopefully that will get through the next committee on tomorrow, the Regulatory Reform Subcommittee. Next up, just want to let you know, I know Chief's run around, Chief McKinley is running around. We've had a couple of meetings with Orange County. We're looking at some additional cameras being put up around, Orange County wants some additional surveillance cameras. And so great partnership. Joe Carter, the captain for our sector, and Chief McKinley and I and Rob Hippler, we've all kind of teamed up together, and we don't care whose cameras they are. We just want the cameras there to be able to help us, solve crimes. And so a great partnership. Duke Energy stepped in and said, listen, we can we can waive some rules. If that's what you really need, we'll make that happen. So real happy with that, the partnership we have there. And then I guess last but not least, for certainly not least, is, well, excuse me, COVID numbers. Just, this is kind of an interesting numbers. You know, we were down to like 4% positivity rate. We were at one point about 4 weeks ago, we were at 40% positivity rate. And we're now back, we're trending down, we're about, I think, 14%, but still, you know, so we'll determine here relatively soon about when we want to reopen City Hall, but, you know, the rates, or the positivity rate's going in the right direction, so feel pretty good about that. So last but not least, for sure, we got the groundbreaking tomorrow at the City Town Center for Starbucks and the food hall. So it will be at 11 o'clock. There's a little cement pad right if you come off McGee on the left. So love to have everybody come out. Chamber of Commerce has got a big press release out there, so come on out. I think we'll do a little reception at the hotel. So that'll be 11 o'clock in front of the Hilton Garden Inn. So hope to see everybody there tomorrow, 11 o'clock. So with that,